The Human Realm. The Human Realm, by Liu Jiming, translated by Chen. Part 1, continued. Chapter 25. Little Cripple wasn't a dull-minded, naturally lazy child. His comprehension and learning abilities were in no way inferior to ordinary children. Ma La and Little Cripple were reinforcing trellises for kiwi trees in the orchard. Kiwis in the orchard were each as big as goose eggs, heavy, densely packed. Tree branches were about to break from the weight. Original trellises couldn't support them anymore. They had to be reinforced again. From 3 years ago, when Ma La planted the first sapling on this desolate riverside outer beach, after 3 full years passing, the kiwi trees finally bore fruit this year. In early summer, each time seeing young kiwis only fingernail-sized trembling on branches like sleeping babies' faces in swaddling clothes, Ma La would unknowingly slow his steps, afraid of disturbing these lovable children. Like a new bride pregnant for the first time, anxious, excited, his heart becoming delicate and soft like a woman's. From summer to autumn, aside from managing cooperative matters, his entire thoughts poured into the orchard. Whenever free, he'd run to the outer beach. Sometimes at midnight, after reading before sleep, when he thought of those kiwis, he'd throw on clothes, shoulder a spade, carry a stool, cross the embankment slope, come to the orchard for a round, sit under kiwi trees smoking a cigarette, only then satisfied returning to sleep. As kiwis grew bigger day by day, orchard matters increased more and more. Pruning branches, cultivating soil, spraying pesticides to prevent insects, each required several times more care than before, about the same as attending a newborn baby. The slightest carelessness could injure those kiwis in their growth period. Fortunately, having Little Cripple as a helper, otherwise he alone truly couldn't manage. After entering autumn, kiwis reached the maturity period. Ma La went to Heiko to buy a full vehicle of nylon netting. Leading Little Cripple over several days, they surrounded the entire orchard. Partly to prevent people from stealing kiwis, partly to prevent cattle, sheep, wild badgers, and weasels from charging into the orchard to destroy. But nylon netting could prevent animals, not people. Before long, several incidents of village children stealing kiwis occurred. Quite a few kiwi trees were broken and damaged by children climbing and snapping branches, scattering fallen fruit across the ground. Facing the devastated orchard, Ma La felt heartache for days. Having no choice, he built a grass shack in the orchard. Every day, 24 hours a day, he and Little Cripple took turns standing guard. After this, the orchard finally quieted down. Having stayed with Ma La a long time, Little Cripple gradually became familiar with orchard work. From loosening soil, cultivating earth, to applying fertilizer, spraying pesticides, pruning and training branches, he did these increasingly skillfully, increasingly attentively. Every move looked proper, not much inferior to professional fruit farmers. This was the result of Ma La's words and deeds teaching, but also inseparable from Little Cripple's own efforts. This youth, lacking parental guidance and care since childhood, seemed transformed after coming to Ma La's side. Compared to 2 years ago, Little Cripple had grown considerably taller, just still thin and skinny like a bean sprout, not yet fully developed. Moreover, his temperament remained so dull all day, rarely saying a few words. His eyes revealed melancholy rarely seen in youths his age. Very obviously, that experience of driving Mamu, gambling with people, nearly being beaten to death, it had branded too heavy a shadow on his heart's depths, making it hard for him to escape. Little Cripple wasn't a dull-minded, naturally lazy child. His comprehension and learning abilities were in no way inferior to ordinary children. Each time, the kiwi cultivation knowledge Ma La taught him, he understood at a touch. Later on, without assignment, he could also proactively assign work to himself. This enabled Ma La to devote more energy to managing cooperative matters. Over time, Little Cripple became part of his life. If he didn't see Little Cripple any day, his heart felt empty, feeling something missing. For Ma La, who'd lived alone long-term, he'd never had this feeling before. Little Cripple even more so. He'd already regarded Ma La as his own relative. From deep in his heart, he had that closeness and dependence a son has toward a father, feeling that being with Ma La, no matter what he did, was joyful. One evening, Little Cripple's turn to stand guard in the orchard. Near midnight, he lay dozing on the wooden plank bed in the grass shack. Half asleep, he heard coughing sounds by his ear. Initially, he thought it was Ma La. Eyes closed, he muttered, "Uncle Ma, when did you come?" Turning over, the wooden plank bed was empty. Strangely, the coughing sounded twice more. He felt it didn't sound like Ma La's cough, but aside from him, there was nobody else in the orchard. Little Cripple recalled ghost stories heard as a child. His body shivered. Suddenly, he scrambled up from the wooden plank bed. All around was silent. From the river surface came the splashing sound of waves hitting shore. Orchard tree branches blown by the wind collided with each other. Occasionally, a kiwi bumped loose, falling to the ground with a thump. The grass shack hung a kerosene lamp. Dim lamplight further accentuated the surrounding darkness. He held his breath listening for a while. The coughing sounded again, coming from the kiwi tree grove. Did someone sneak into the orchard? Little Cripple took down the kerosene lamp, held it in hand, walked outside the grass shack, shouting loudly toward the kiwi grove. "Who's there? Come out quickly!" But nobody answered. Another gust of night wind blew from the river surface, making the orchard rustle chaotically. Little Cripple returned to the grass shack, rehung the kerosene lamp. But just as he lay down on the wooden plank bed, the coughing sounded again. Hoarse, like an old man. This time he was truly frightened. Hair on his body stood up one by one. To embolden himself, he clutched the spade tightly to his chest, eyes staring without blinking at the pitch-black orchard, as if monsters and demons might emerge from inside at any moment. Little Guy didn't sleep a wink all night. Next morning, when Ma La came to change shifts, seeing his red eyes yawning constantly, listless, he asked if he hadn't slept well at night. Little Cripple hesitantly told what happened last night. Unexpectedly, just as he finished, Ma La burst out laughing, tears laughing out. Little Cripple pouted, muttering, "Uncle Ma, really, I was scared nearly to death and you're still laughing." Ma La finally stopped laughing, expression mysterious. "I know who's coughing. These little fellows also came to our orchard to steal food." Little Cripple asked who the little fellows were. Ma La smiled without answering, hands clasped behind back, toured the orchard once round, returning to tell Little Cripple, "The nylon netting has several holes drilled through. Looks like more than one." Little Cripple grew more confused, pressing to ask who. Ma La continued teasing him, only saying, "Tonight I'll definitely catch them red-handed." That night, Ma La stayed in the orchard together with Little Cripple. Near midnight, coughing sounds rang out again. Ma La gave Little Cripple a meaningful look, picked up the flashlight. Little Cripple also grabbed the spade. The two walked into the orchard one after the other. Under a kiwi tree, Ma La aimed the flashlight beam at a fluffy mass at the tree's base. Initially, Little Cripple thought it was a pile of weeds, but after the flashlight illuminated it a short while, that pile of weeds actually moved. Then a pink little face popped out. A pair of mung bean-sized eyes rolled around. Opening a fleshy little mouth, the sound it made was exactly the same as the coughing Little Cripple had heard. "A hedgehog! So this little fellow was coughing!" Little Cripple cried out in surprise, simultaneously raising the spade to smash at the little fellow, cursing, "You spiky little thing! How come you snore like a person? I'll kill you!" Ma La was quick-eyed and deft-handed, grabbing the spade in one swipe. "Uncle Ma, this hedgehog definitely stole quite a few kiwis. Why keep it? Kill it and I'll stew soup for you." Little Cripple struggled, saying, "My dad once killed a hedgehog. Add chili peppers, ginger, and garlic, simmer in the pot an hour. Even better than chicken." Ma La said, "Don't hurt these lovable little fellows. With them, pests in the orchard will have bad days. Also saves us quite a bit of pesticide. Stealing a few kiwis doesn't matter." From then on, the orchard had several hedgehogs. These spiky little animals chased pests everywhere. Snakes, scorpions, lizards, and mice were all chased by them, scurrying up and down trees. Within days, pest numbers in the orchard decreased significantly. Little Cripple gradually came to like the little hedgehogs. At night, if he couldn't hear their coughing sounds, he couldn't sleep instead. These little fellows also seemed to regard the orchard's two masters as trustworthy friends. As soon as hearing their shouts and footsteps, they'd fly out from the orchard depths, boldly poking heads out from piles of spiky skin, opening fleshy little mouths, squeaking, begging them for food. Little hedgehogs weren't interested in kiwis. They liked eating caterpillars, beetles, snails, and earthworms. This made Little Cripple feel he'd found kindred spirits, because he also didn't like eating kiwis. He felt the kiwi flavor was sour and astringent, terribly unpalatable. Moreover, he'd heard that the villagers didn't like the kiwi flavor either. That gang of village kids coming to steal kiwis from the orchard initially was completely out of curiosity. Because in Shenhuangzhou since ancient times, nobody had seen things like kiwis. After they secretly ate a few, they never wanted to eat them again. Stolen kiwis were all fed to pigs as fodder. Little Cripple worried in his heart. Uncle Ma exhausting himself in the orchard, growing fruit so unpalatable, who would buy it in the future? One day he finally told Uncle Ma his worry. After hearing this, Ma La looked at him with a strange gaze, patted his head, and said approvingly, "That you can think of this layer shows you're not only a qualified fruit farmer, but can also manage the orchard." Little Cripple understood Uncle Ma's meaning. Before, he'd proposed several times wanting to also plant fruit trees on his few mu of responsibility land. Uncle Ma had never agreed or disagreed. Now he obviously agreed. However, regarding the word manage, Ma La said, Little Cripple still only half understood, but he thought, as long as I can stay with Uncle Ma, I'll ultimately understand more and more. Near noon, a person braving scorching sun crossed the embankment slope, passed through the wave prevention forest, quickly walking toward the riverside orchard. He had a bag slung over his shoulder, appearing travel-worn. The forest was full of yellowed fallen leaves. When the wind blew, they swirled on the ground like flying birds. Two boys were vigorously using rakes to gather ground leaves together, loading them into burlap sacks. On the ground were two bulging sacks already filled with leaves. They worked completely absorbed, sweat emerging on foreheads without time to wipe, not noticing someone had walked into the forest, stopping beside them. "Big twin, little twin, really diligent. You've raked this forest nearly clean." That person looked teasingly at the two children. "Your family's biogas pit should be filled up too." "Uncle Gu Yu, you're finally back?" The slightly older child straightened up, using the back of his hand to wipe sweat from his face. "Our family's biogas stove hasn't sparked fire these past 2 days. Grandma and Mom were about to find you to fix it." "Oh my, I haven't even reached home yet," Gu Yu said, smiling. "Tell your mom I'll come fix it later, okay?" Gu Yu touched the child's forehead, lifted his legs toward the orchard. From afar, he saw Ma La reinforcing kiwi tree trellises with Little Cripple. He quickened his pace, loudly shouting, "Teacher Ma, I'm back!" Ma La seemed to have been anticipating Gu Yu's arrival. Hearing his voice, he immediately put down work in hand, instructed Little Cripple a few words, then clapped mud from his hands, striding to meet Gu Yu in 2 or 3 steps. At the orchard edge, teacher and student met. Ma La grasped Gu Yu's hand tightly, looking him up and down. "How was it? Collected all the accounts?" Ma La, pulling Gu Yu's hand, walked toward the grass shack by the orchard. All collected. Not one supermarket defaulted." Gu Yu patted the shoulder bag with a spirited manner like a soldier just triumphantly returned from battle. Days ago, when Gu Yu left on behalf of the cooperative to collect payments from various supermarkets selling Tongxin ecological rice, Ma La had secretly sweated. From his former business experience, finding distributors wasn't hard. The hard part was figuring out how to recover payment after the goods were sold. Many business people often lost battles at this crucial stage. Years ago, he and Teacher Liu had suffered losses more than once during their early entrepreneurial period. This year was Tongxin Cooperative's first year of ecological rice on the market. to ensure each farming household adhered to the ecological standard of no chemical fertilizer, no pesticides, Ma La reached an agreement with everyone. Whoever secretly used chemical fertilizer couldn't use the Tongsin ecological rice brand for unified market sales. According to the laws of commodity economics, a brand's success or failure, aside from product quality itself, was more about whether it could open markets. Starting last year, Ma La had led Gu Yu running through all Yanhe County seats and several townships' large and small 100-plus grain and oil supermarkets. Non-stop, running everywhere, endless socializing, endless talking. Ma La seemed to have returned to those early entrepreneurial days with teacher Liu years ago. After several months, they finally signed dozens of consignment contracts. Although payment was upon sale, with this thick stack of contracts, his hanging heart felt slightly grounded. Now the news Gu Yu brought back far exceeded Ma La's expectations. This meant Tongsin ecological rice had initially established a foothold in the market. Ma La felt that the heart of his half-suspended in midair finally landed. Asking people for money doesn't feel good. Saying nice words until your throat's smoked, right? Ma La, pulling Gu Yu to sit cross-legged on the wooden plank bed, grabbed the water flask brought from home, unscrewed the cap, and handed it to Gu Yu. Come, moisten your throat first. Gu Yu was probably extremely thirsty. Not bothering with politeness, he took the flask, raised it, mouth against the spout. In one breath, drank nearly half the flask. Only then did he wipe his mouth, saying, "These supermarket bosses truly didn't have many wanting to default. All said our rice from quality to packaging is top-notch. After just a few days on display in supermarkets, it's sold out completely. Some can't wait to sign next year's distribution contracts this year. Looks like we've won a great victory in this battle." Ma La happily rubbed his hands. As if remembering something, he quickly fumbled cigarettes from his pocket, pulled one out for Gu Yu. Previously, he rarely offered Gu Yu cigarettes. Now it somewhat meant rewarding a meritorious official. Unexpectedly, Gu Yu didn't take it. Instead, he took a pack of Yellow Crane Tower cigarettes from his satchel, shook it at Ma La, and said, "Teacher Ma, smoke mine." "What, just got money and already upgrading cigarette quality?" Ma La teased. "Not at all. This was prepared for those supermarket bosses. Didn't finish smoking it." Watching Gu Yu's honest appearance, Ma La's heart filled with joy. Not only because rice distribution payments were recovered, but also because through practical training, his own student and assistant performed increasingly maturely and outstandingly. He watched Gu Yu transform step by step from a somewhat rash young farmer into today's form, persistent, determined, steady. From water conservancy irrigation and biogas equipment installation and maintenance to rice pest prevention and discussing rice sales with people, large and small cooperative matters now couldn't do without Gu Yu. For Ma La, how gratifying this was. To make an analogy, if he himself were this cooperative boat's captain, Gu Yu was his first mate. Now, through their joint efforts, this boat had crossed initial rapids and dangerous shoals, sailing toward broad waters. "The most difficult days have finally passed," Ma La said to himself. "Next, we need to increase rice planting area, raise output. Of course, also find ways to further raise Tongsin ecological rice's reputation, striving to leave the county early, occupying a position even in large and medium cities." Gu Yu, seeing Ma La's contemplative expression, knew the teacher was again planning the cooperative's development. As the cooperative's vice chairman, he'd also pondered quite a bit about similar strategic issues. Increasing planting area is no problem. Recently, haven't several households applied to join the cooperative? Area can at least double compared to last year. Rice output will also multiply, he said, following Ma La's train of thought. By then, if still delivering goods and collecting payments one supermarket at a time like now, probably won't work. Of course, we not only need to establish specialized sales channels, but also quickly build up the internet service platform. Ma La seemed to have thought it through long ago, continuing, "These 2 years, the speed of internet development is truly fast. Big city people now not only habitually access information online, but also increasingly shop and consume online. Some cooperatives established earlier in the north have already led the way. They call online sales of agricultural products contract agriculture. This is truly a new marketing revolution. As Ma La spoke, he smacked his lips admiringly, constantly rubbing his palms, appearing eager to try. Recently, I've also been pondering opening a website. I've already thought of the website name. Call it Tongxin Farm. By then, Tongxin ecological rice won't be limited by region, can be sold outside the province, even nationwide. Ordering goods, delivering goods, making payments, receiving payments, just press a keyboard key. Gu Yu was captivated by Ma La's description. He secretly marveled. Teacher Ma about everything stands higher, sees farther than ordinary people. Don't look at him now, staying all day in this small orchard by the river, yet he knows about all the world's novel happenings. Compared to the teacher, I'm still far behind. Thinking this, Gu Yu felt the small achievement he'd just made really wasn't worth being proud of. He finished smoking one cigarette, tossed the butt outside the grass shack, gaze falling on the orchard before him, muttering, "These kiwis, although a bit sour, they're quite tempting. Don't know if they can sell like rice." "Don't worry, I've already posted sales information online," Ma La said confidently. "Recently, aside from coming to the orchard with little cripple to stand guard, whenever I have time, every day I huddle online fiddling with this matter. To date, returned order quantities, I estimate, are enough to sell all the orchard's kiwis. City people nowadays, their demand for nutritious fruits is too great. On this point, we rural people are still quite behind. Not admitting this gap won't work." Gu Yu also excitedly rubbed his fists and palms. The internet truly is a good thing. Teacher Ma, quickly build our Tongxin Farm website. When I worked in the city before, I knew how to go online and play games. Hey, I can't wait even one more day." Ma La said, "I've already contacted a county network company. In a few days, I'll go sign a website service agreement with them. You'll come with me then, Gu Yu. Quickly learn to go online. You're now vice chairman, can't only know how to play games. Without mastering high technology, how can you lead everyone to achieve leapfrog development? Honestly speaking, I truly didn't expect we could use the internet so quickly. This is all thanks to this year's just completed village-to-village connection project. Without internet lines, we truly wouldn't be able to keep pace with the times." The two chatted more excitedly, unconsciously reaching noon. Ma La reminded Gu Yu, "You came back without even reaching home yet. Fennel doesn't know how much she's thinking of you." Gu Yu seemed not to have chatted enough yet, appearing somewhat reluctant to stand up from the wooden plank bed, walking out of the grass shack. Just then, suddenly, several fluffy little hedgehogs ran out from the orchard. They circled around Ma La while opening fleshy little mouths, hissing as if begging him for food. Ma La reached out his hand, affectionately stroking the hedgehogs' bodies, smiling at Gu Yu. The little fellows must have been making trouble in the orchard, chased out by little cripple coming to beg me for food. Saying this, he turned back into the grass shack, brought out a gourd ladle filled with caterpillars and earthworms, what little cripple specially prepared as hedgehogs' delicacies. He raised his hand and tossed. The hedgehogs squeaked and swarmed forward, scrambling together. Chapter 26. A book's growth process is actually quite similar to that of a crop. The only difference is that crops are rooted in the earth, while books are rooted in the human heart. Autumn on the plains was always so brief. Often, before people had finished picking field cotton or pulling cotton stalks, before sorghum stripped of grain heads and corn stripped of cobs left only bare stalks waiting to be burned, the weather would suddenly turn cold. One day you'd still be wearing thin padded clothes, but the next morning when you opened the door, a bone-chilling cold rushed at your face, making you involuntarily shrink your neck. The ground was whitish, as if covered with a thin layer of salt or fresh snow. Looking closely with wide eyes, you'd realize it was frost. In the countryside, the transition from autumn to winter was similar to switching from color film to black and white. Wasn't it? As the tree leaves fluttered down until they were completely gone, exposing iron-gray branches, the vegetable garden greens became increasingly sparse and monotonous. Ditch water had long dried up, revealing filthy mud and weeds. Wild grass at field edges, ditch slopes, and roadsides turned entirely yellow. Green retreated like a defeated army, step by step, from people's sight under the threat of severe winter. The countryside's scenery was becoming withered and desolate, dim and lifeless, like a person in their twilight years. But farmers didn't care about color changes. Their hearts contained only the 24 solar terms. Each season had its farming tasks. The 4 seasons interlock in cycles, endlessly repeating. They treated each season equally, just as they treated birth, aging, sickness, and death. Before true winter arrived, they remained busy, rushing to plant winter wheat, rapeseed, and other green fertilizers in preparation for next year's spring plowing. For farmers, there were always endless tasks. Busyness was their fate. After finishing crop work, it was time to attend to their own affairs. The biggest matter was, of course, preparing New Year's goods. In Shenhuangzhou, New Year goods content was extremely rich. Starting from the lunar winter month, pounding chiba, making tofu, preparing dried tofu strips, boiling rice candy, butchering pigs, slaughtering sheep, one thing after another until New Year's Eve, when things finally quieted down. Country folk also liked placing major life events in winter. For instance, birthday celebrations for the elderly, weddings for young men and women, even many elderly people chose to pass away peacefully in winter. So every winter, country people had endless celebratory wine to drink, endless birthday or funeral banquets to attend. Every day you could hear firecrackers for weddings and funerals, from one village to another, all day without interruption. In the country, people's minds, not only the spring festival but the entire winter, were their holiday season. For Shenhuangzhou people, this winter's biggest event was undoubtedly Zhao Guangfu's younger daughter, Zhao Manyu's marriage. Months earlier, Zhao Guangfu had begun preparing for the celebration, driving his farm vehicle to town to purchase goods, from banquet ingredients to cigarettes, alcohol, candy, and melon seeds for guests, hauling everything home, trip after trip. This Shenhuangzhou cotton-growing magnate, usually pouring all energy into farm work, always worried, rarely showing smiles when meeting people, now seemed transformed. Seeing every villager, his face beamed as he proactively greeted them. "Remember to come drink wine on the 8th. No separate invitation." The other would quickly say, "Definitely come to congratulate. Definitely." Days before the 8th, Zhao Guangfu butchered his family's largest pig. Then a chef hired from another village arrived, shouldering a steamer and a cutting board, officially entering the Zhao household operations, steaming fish cakes, frying meatballs, butchering chickens, and gutting fish, beginning elaborate banquet preparations. This chef shared the Zhao surname beyond the 5th degree of kinship, quite famous in Heku. Respectable figures from surrounding villages all hired him for banquets. Chef Zhao's reputation was big, his heirs considerable, bringing 2 or 3 apprentices alone. Plus, several Christian brothers and sisters, including Chao Guixiu, were invited to help, so many people could easily prepare dozens of tables. 2 days before the 8th, Man Yui rode her brother Changqing's car back to Shenhuangzhou from the county seat. Changqing, usually busy with business, rarely came home. This time, taking advantage of his sister's marriage, he brought his wife and children back to Shenhuangzhou to stay a few days. Before Changqing's car stopped, his father Zhao Guangfu lit a 10,000-cracker string at the entrance. Deafening firecrackers crackled for about half a cigarette's duration, spreading throughout the village. Quite a few village children swarmed toward the Zhao household to catch a glimpse of the excitement. The joyous scene of Man Yu's marriage began even before the 8th arrived. According to countryside custom, when any family's son married or daughter wed, aside from that family's relatives, unless villagers had serious conflicts with that family or the family wasn't well regarded in the village, most would come to offer congratulations. Shenhuangzhou called this fenzi money. Years ago, 5 or 10 yuan could suffice. Recent years, it gradually rose like commodity prices to 50 or 100 yen. Regardless of the amount, it was all human sentiment. The host family would meticulously record everything to eventually return the favor. Given Zhao Guangfu's accumulated connections in Shenhuangzhou over many years, villagers bringing Fenzi money wore down his threshold. Quite a few from other villages also came. Some came not only for Zhao Guangfu, but also for the Zhao family's new son-in-law, Li Haijun. They were all insect-resistant cotton growers. This year's bumper cotton harvest made these farmers who'd tasted cotton's sweetness grateful to Li Haijun, and they took the opportunity to express their appreciation. So their Fenzi money exceeded that of ordinary households by 200, 300. Zhao Guangfu kept mental notes when assigning seats, arranging these people at the same table as insect-resistant cotton cooperative farmers. What surprised Zhao Guangfu was that Ma La and Gu Yu also brought Fenzi money. Accompanying them was Little Cripple. Ma La gave 500 yuan, same as village party secretary Guo Dongsheng. This amount far exceeded ordinary Fenzi money standards. Instantly, Zhao Guangfu felt that previous grudges with Ma La and Gu Yu became insignificant. Countryside human sentiment was like this. Resentments arose quickly, disappeared quickly too. You respect me 1 foot, I respect you 10 feet. He arranged Ma La and village party secretary Guo Dongsheng together at the head table, not only sitting beside them himself, but calling Changqing and Man Yue out to toast Teacher Ma and Secretary Guo. The entire table vied to toast village party secretary Guo Dongsheng and Tongxin cooperative director Ma La. Gu Yu only toasted his teacher, Ma La, treating Guo Dongsheng as if he were invisible. This somewhat embarrassed Guo Dongsheng. He clearly knew Gu Yu's hostility toward himself, but having seen big occasions, he acted as if nothing happened, raising his wine cup to Ma La and Zhao Guangfu. You two are cooperative leaders, must drink together today. Ma and Zhao glanced at each other, simultaneously raising cups and draining them. The village's future development depends on you two. I borrow Manyu's celebratory wine to toast you both, Guo Dongsheng said, also draining his cup. Zhao Guangfu, understanding propriety, personally went to the embankment guard shack to invite the father of the village party secretary, Guo Dongsheng, Guo Dawan, to sit at the head table. The more people came to drink celebratory wine, the happier Zhao Guangfu became. Fenzi money amount no longer mattered. What he valued was his reputation and connections as a big household in the hearts of fellow villagers. For farmers, this was the highest reward for a lifetime of laboring on land. For 2 consecutive days, flowing banquets ran from morning to evening, almost without interruption. Rich wine and meat aromas wafted from the Zhao household. Village cats and dogs were practically drooling from the smell. On the 8th day itself, the Jingjiang opera troupe Zhao household hired set up a stage on the village center dam. Traditional opera Sanniang Jiaozi, starring famous Jingjiang opera performers Wu Haisheng and Bai Xiaowei, gave Shenhuangzhou's old and new opera fans a feast for the eyes. All of Shenhuangzhou was immersed in a festival-like joyous atmosphere. That afternoon, the wedding vehicle convoy from the county seat, a string of over 10 brand-new gleaming luxury cars, drove along the newly completed cement road right to Zhao household's entrance. Groom Li Haijun wore a western suit and leather shoes, a red flower pinned to chest. Having dyed his hair completely black, face glowing red, he looked nothing like someone already over 50. He emerged from the foremost Audi sedan, hand in hand with village party secretary Guo Dongsheng, who'd come forward as a witness, shoulder to shoulder walking into the Zhao household. Toward evening, amid enthusiastic firecracker sounds, the convoy drove out from the Zhao household. Bride Zhao Manyue and groom Li Haijun sat in the foremost Audi. Changqing drove his own car at the convoy's rear. As the bride's older brother, according to custom, he had to escort his sister all the way to the county seat. Zhao Guangfu and Chao Guiqiu stood amid the crowd, seeing off the wedding convoy, watching it grandly drive out of the village. Only after it disappeared for quite a while did they withdraw their gazes. Less than a week after Manyu's marriage, an overwhelming snowfall descended. The heavy snow fell for 3 full days. The first day brought grain-sized snow pellets, swish, 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 falling to ground, hitting people's ears with stinging pain. By the second evening, pellets became flakes, small ones like chicken feathers, large ones like goose feathers, drifting profusely, dancing sky-wide. By the third morning, fields and villages donned snow-white cloaks. Even dried ditches were nearly filled to the level with thick snow. Road snow accumulation reached over a foot deep. Pedestrians sinking 1 foot in could barely pull the other out. The village pond also froze over. All Shenhuangzhou presented a snow scene unseen for decades. In such rare, heavy snow, aside from children playing snowball fights and chasing rabbits in snow, adults all holed up at home, lighting warm tree root fires, bringing out long-prepared New Year goods, chatting idly, watching TV, playing cards, thoroughly enjoying the leisure time bestowed by heaven. Beside Ma La, aside from Little Cripple, there was now a dog. Commune member. Big Bull Uncle had been picked up by his son Guo Dongsheng to winter in town. In harsh winter, how could an old man nearly 80 be left alone in a guard shack? But Guo Dongsheng's wife, Zhang Yulan, feared dogs most. Her condition for taking in Guo Dongsheng's father for the winter was commune member, not allowed inside. So before leaving, Big Bull Uncle entrusted commune member to Ma La. This was exactly what Ma La wanted. He and Little Cripple both liked commune member. Whatever they ate, they'd save some for it. Over time, commune member became somewhat reluctant to leave them. This was Ma La's third winter back in Shenhuangzhou. With a youth and dog beside him, although this winter was colder than the previous two, he didn't find it hard to endure at all. Rather, he felt warm contentment. Such days were perfect for Ma La to temporarily set aside cooperative matters, settle down, and focus on writing that book. Ever since starting it at the labor reform farm, he hadn't continued, but he'd never forgotten this matter. Like a seed, following seasonal changes, it would take root and sprout, continuously growing until bearing abundant fruit. A book's growth process was actually quite similar to that of a crop. The only difference was that crops were rooted in the earth, while books were rooted in the human heart. The human heart also needed earth's nourishment. In this sense, a person writing books and a person farming crops were the same type of person. Both should possess identical qualities. For instance, diligence, patience, self-respect, kindness, and compassion, plus an almost innate sense of responsibility. Needless to say, Ma La was this type of person. Writing, like laboring on land, held the same allure for him. Most importantly, writing did not require anyone's authorization. As long as you had needs and the ability to express, you could pick up the pen. This was about the same as farming. As long as you owned land belonging to yourself, you could cultivate, sow, and harvest on it. Even if you had no land, you could shoulder a hoe to open wasteland and reclaim, using your own hands to develop land truly belonging to yourself. During those days when heavy snow sealed doors, Ma La shut himself in the upstairs study almost all day writing. Although he could already skillfully use computers and the internet, he hadn't yet gotten used to writing on a computer. He still wrote in that black plastic-covered notebook like before, still using that old-style dip pen. He'd bought several bottles of ink, placing them on the desk for replenishing ink any time. Ma La felt the steel pen in his hand was like a small magic wand, bringing him back to past years. Like characters in some science fiction films, he returned to Shenhuangzhou 30 years ago, and to Heku and Yanhe County Teachers College 20 years ago, seeing father, mother, older brother, teacher Liu, plus middle-aged Big Bowl Uncle and his young self, and also those familiar but name-forgotten people. Many vanished past events reappeared before the eyes one by one, like film strips. He felt his heartbeat accelerate, breathing gradually growing heavy, eyes unable to help but moisten. At that moment, Ma La was completely captured by his own writing. At this time, he was no longer a former entrepreneur and released prisoner, or Shenhuangzhou orchard owner and Tongxin cooperative director. He was only a person writing or laboring. Ma La wrote so absorbedly that he forgot outside flying snow and bone-penetrating cold. When he stopped writing, he discovered his hands nearly frozen stiff. He had to stand up and walk around the room, move his body, letting his gradually numb limbs regain feeling. Regaining feeling along with limbs was also hunger, because by now it was noon or evening, meaning he'd gone half a day without eating. So, he'd go downstairs to make lunch or dinner together with Little Cripple. Before Big Bowl Uncle was picked up by Guo Dongsheng to town for New Year, he sold one of his 2 raised pigs, butchered one. Big Bowl Uncle had Guo Dongsheng take half. Ma La bought the other half, over 100 jin, cured into preserved meat, enough for him and Little Cripple to eat all winter. In the countryside, winter especially snow day meals were relatively simple. The fire pit with tree roots burned all day. Whatever you wanted to eat, just prop up a tripod, put the pot on top. Eating and drinking all by the fire pit, both convenient and warm. Preserved meat plus cabbage and radish, stewed until tender in the fire pit, fragrant and delicious. Ma La and Little Cripple ate it every day without tiring. After a period, not only had they both grown plumper, even commune member eating their gnawed bones and leftovers was raised plump and robust, coat glossy and smooth as silk. The snow stopped, but the temperature remained very low. The entire earth was frozen solid. Rooftops piled with thick snow, tree branches draped in heavy snow clothes. Branches unable to bear the weight fell onto snow, snapping crisply into sections with heartbreaking groans. If someone happened to walk under the trees just then, they would inevitably get splattered with snow pellets, receiving quite a fright. If the broken branch happened to hit them, that would be even more unlucky. Ma La worried about his kiwi trees. Temporarily setting aside writing, he grabbed a bamboo pole, called to Little Cripple warming himself by the fire pit. "Come, go with me to check the orchard." In this heavy snow, Little Cripple couldn't even visit village households, all day only able to warm by the fire pit, bored to death. He quickly got up to change into tall boots. When leaving, commune member followed like a tail. The river embankment lay like a giant python armored in snow white. Embankment sloped snow accumulation over a foot deep, nearly reaching knees. Ma La used the bamboo pole as a walking stick, climbing from the embankment base to the top, falling several times. Body was covered in snow like a big snowman. Little Cripple wasn't much better. One boot now in snow took quite a while to pull out. Only commune member following behind, 4 hooves lightly tapping frozen snow in the blink of an eye, ran to the embankment top. Standing on the embankment, looking out, the wave prevention forest resembled a screen built of ice and snow, silver glittering, making people feel a face on, piercing cold from afar. The desolate outer beach, white with snow, transformed into a vast snowy plain. River water, like a blue gemstone, lay quietly at the snowy plain's edge. Ma La led Little Cripple and commune member through the wave prevention forest to the orchard. Just as he'd worried, thick snow on kiwi trees, originally flexible branches, couldn't bear it, listing east and west. Quite a few branches had been pressed and broken. To prevent freezing before winter, Ma La and Little Cripple had wrapped every tree trunk in a layer of warming rice straw. But now this straw had been soaked rotten by days of rain and snow, stripping and peeling off. If measures hadn't been taken promptly before the snow melted, kiwi trees would have died under the weight of the heavy snow. Ma La and Little Cripple wielded bamboo poles, flicking snow off kiwi trees. Before long, their hands froze so stiff they couldn't grip the poles. They had to stop, constantly blowing hot air onto their hands until they could grip the poles firmly again, then resume flicking snow. They worked from morning to noon, returned for a simple lunch, then went back to the orchard to continue. Near dark, they finally flicked snow off all the orchard kiwi trees. Just as they were about to leave the orchard, they suddenly heard commune members' urgent barking not far away. Little Cripple leaned on his bamboo pole, listening a moment, quite confidently saying, "Commune member must have caught wild game." Before Ma La could react, he took off running toward the dogs barking. Before long, Little Cripple returned, hand carrying something, running while shouting, "Rabbit! Commune member caught a rabbit!" Before the words finished, commune member like yellow lightning arrived before Ma La, proudly circling him several times, even extending front paws to scratch at his chest as if demanding a reward. Little Cripple, gripping the rabbit's ears, excitedly ran to Ma La saying, "Uncle Ma, let's stew rabbit meat today." "Good idea. Change of flavor. Rabbit meat tastes better than pork," Ma La said while smacking his lips several times. That wild rabbit was only bitten by commune member, not yet dead. This poor creature probably couldn't stand hunger, sneaking out to find food when caught by commune member, he thought. His mind conjured childhood scenes of chasing rabbits in the snow. Also on this outer beach, on a heavy snow day, he'd once caught a rabbit barehanded with his brother, weighing a full 3 jin. He, mother, and brother ate it over 2 meals. That was the most delicious wild game he'd ever tasted. The sky finally cleared. The sun at last showed its face. Field snow was melting bit by bit. Icicles under eaves continuously shrank in size. Water drops plinked endlessly, drilling holes in the ground. When evening temperatures dropped, they froze motionless again. The spring festival drew closer day by day. Every household accelerated the New Year goods preparation pace, pounding shiba, boiling sesame candy, butchering New Year pigs. Village atmosphere grew increasingly festive. In Shenhuangzhou, shiba was indispensable New Year goods. Unless household circumstances were too dire, families would pound at least some shiba. Pounding shiba was strenuous work requiring at least 4 robust men. Ordinary households lacking manpower always had to invite several village helpers. So every pre-spring festival period, village men seemed even busier than usual. Often, one household's ECIBA wasn't finished pounding before another household came requesting help. However busy, men gladly accepted this task. After pounding shiba, the host family provided good food and drink. Why not? This year, most households in Shenhuangzhou had good harvests. Whether planting cotton or rice, all enjoyed rare good fortune. So, households pounding shiba exceeded previous years. But most village young adults had gone outside to work and had not yet returned. Quite a few households lacked manpower for pounding shibiao. Someone thought of Ma La living at the embankment base. Initially, they lacked confidence about successfully inviting him. In many people's eyes, Ma La was still a guest. Several farming households in Tongxin Cooperative had fewer such concerns, rushing to invite Ma La ahead of others. But rather than say they were inviting Ma La to help, better to say they borrowed this opportunity to invite the director home for a meal. Ordinarily, they wanted to invite Teacher Ma home for a meal, but couldn't find a suitable reason. The cooperative's bylaws strictly prohibited the director from accepting meals or gifts from cooperative members. This way, during the period before Spring Festival, Ma La became extremely busy. Almost every day, someone came inviting him to help pound shiba. For this unexpected task, Ma La was quite willing. He could take this opportunity to interact more with villagers, increase mutual affection, and avoid always being treated as a guest. Ma La left the embankment base's windmill house and walked toward the village. Although Ma La didn't want villagers treating him as a guest, each time he went to help pound shiba, he dressed neatly, like someone visiting, even wearing a scarf around his neck, his hair combed meticulously and his clothes showing not a speck of mud. This was a habit from his former teaching days, also why Shenhuangzhou people found it hard to regard him as a genuine farmer. Though the weather after the snow was clear, the temperature remained very low. Nights and mornings below 0, only around noon, gradually warming somewhat. Field snow grew increasingly sparse. Some places already exposed black soil and faint deep green, and recently sprouted winter wheat. Road ice hadn't completely thawed. Only because walking people gradually increased did ice and mud mix together. As more people trampled, the road's center became increasingly muddy and difficult to cross. Fortunately, the roadside snow hadn't yet melted. Pedestrians carefully stepped over the snow on the roadside, walking forward. But over time, roadside snow was trampled to mush by people's footsteps, turning into muddy slush. Ma La wore tall rain boots, unconcerned about road mud. At the village entrance, people occasionally approached from ahead. If the other shouldered a load, he'd stop early at the roadside to proactively greet. The other would also quickly stop, lifting wind-reddened face, humbly calling, "Teacher Ma, going to help pound Siba?" If that person happened to be pounding Siba in a couple of days, most would seize the opportunity to extend an invitation. "Teacher Ma, in a couple of days, please help pound Siba. You must do us the honor." Ma La knew this was just conversation, needn't be taken seriously, no need for formal response, so he'd just vaguely grunt acknowledgement. If that person was serious, the next day they'd specially come to his door to invite him. After entering the village, he encountered even more pedestrians. Every few steps, someone greeted him, expressions and tones somewhat novel, because ordinarily they rarely saw Ma La appear in the village. Even when appearing, he mainly discussed matters with cooperative farmers, rarely interacting with other farmers. But now, because of pounding Shiba, Ma La began entering more farming households, like visiting relatives. This gave him, after a full 3 years back in Shenhuangzhou, a genuine homecoming feeling. Villagers' simple, warm, smiling faces made him feel close. This made him realize his blood-like connection to this land and these people, one that couldn't be severed. This connection, like seeds, had been planted in his heart from age 2 or 3 when, following mother and brother, he drifted to Shenhuangzhou. This was a mutually concerned, sharing weal and woe emotion, only existing among relatives. Precisely because this emotion existed, he didn't feel lonely. Moreover, from it he experienced a happiness not destroyed by flesh. At the dam at Old Wan's small shop entrance, Ma La saw some fashionably dressed young strangers in down jackets. They'd all just returned from city work for Spring Festival. These young people mostly didn't recognize Ma La. Seeing him, they cast curious glances from afar. Due to former business experience, Ma La felt special closeness toward these working youth. He approached them proactively to greet them, asking whose children they were, which city they worked in, how much they earned each month, etc. These working youth, already skilled at socializing, quickly became familiar with Ma La. Chatting with them a while, Ma La felt he too had become much younger. Even the wind blowing on his face wasn't as cold as before, as if spring had already arrived early. He felt that Shenhuangzhou, ordinarily, almost only seeing middle-aged and elderly people appearing lifeless and aged, suddenly sprouted so many young, vibrant faces, the entire village became young too. How many years had it been since Gu Yu's household had pounded Siba? He himself probably couldn't say clearly. In previous years, his family owed mountains of debt. He worked outside. Money earned could barely fill the whole family's bellies. How could there be spare grain to exchange for glutinous rice to pound Siba? Back then, Gu Yu, to avoid village debts, dared not even come home for the Spring Festival. Fennel could only take the children back to her maiden home for the new year. Their own home couldn't be bothered to prepare any New Year's goods. These 2 years' circumstances naturally differed. Starting last year, when the cooperative was established, Gu Yu's household's days improved year by year. Especially this year, his family's 2 pigs both exceeded 100 jin. These 2 pigs were like high-powered manure-making machines, providing enough energy for his family's biogas pit. His family's several Mu rice paddy fertilization problems were also fundamentally solved. Gu Yu's household's rice income this year alone exceeded the total of the previous 2 years' crop income. After entering winter, he renovated the house and added several new pieces of furniture. The originally dilapidated home was transformed completely. Gu Yu, long too poor to lift his head, finally found his dignity. As a man, he could now not only let his wife and children eat their fill and dress warmly, but also, working with Ma La, manage the establishment and development of Tongxin Cooperative and gain farmers' respect. Previously, what Gu Yu few took seriously was increasingly becoming a figure in Shenhuangzhou that couldn't be ignored. Thinking of this, Gu Yu felt so excited that he couldn't sleep well at night. Unable to sleep, he and Fennel held quilt meetings. Gu Yu said, "This new year we can finally butcher a New Year pig." Fennel said, "Butcher the big or small one?" "Of course, the big one. Sell the small one in exchange for 3 piglets." "Butcher the big one. Can we finish eating it?" "Not just for ourselves, we'll also give some away." "Give to who?" "Your parents, my father-in-law and mother-in-law. In previous years, your maiden family helped us quite a bit." "At least you have some conscience." "Also give 2 cuts of meat to Teacher Ma. Without him, there'd be no cooperative. I, Gu Yu, wouldn't have today." "That's right. Teacher Ma is our family's lucky star." "Not just our family's, the whole village's lucky star." "This year, should we still invite Teacher Ma to our home for the reunion dinner?" "Invite little cripple together. 1 big, 1 small, 2 men, ultimately doesn't seem like a family." "Why has Teacher Ma at such an age never formed a family?" Teacher Ma is so outstanding. Women who could match him are too few." This year, more and more village households are pounding sibe. Our household must pound at least 50 kilograms of saiba this year, and we'll go to Heku Market to exchange for the best glutinous rice." "Your tone is big. Not pounding means not pounding. Once pounding means 50-60 kilograms. Zhao Guangfu's household only pounds this much." "I just want to compete with his old Zhao household." "Still holding grudges? Don't forget Zhao Guangfu nearly became your father-in-law." "Why do you, this person, keep bringing up these old sesame and rotten millet matters?" Fine, won't mention it. Still discussing pounding Siba. You say, invite which people to help?" "Teacher Ma definitely must invite. Others you decide." "I'm afraid you may not necessarily invite Teacher Ma. Village people are all competing to invite him." "Tsk! What's my relationship with Teacher Ma? Who can compete with me? Others invite Teacher Ma, he can refuse, but when I invite, can he not come?" Gu Yu spoke correctly. The Saiba pounding day, Ma La not only came early to his household, but brought little Cripple along too. Gu Yu was very happy. Although little Cripple couldn't exert much strength, 1 more person meant 1 more share of liveliness. Wasn't pounding Chiba all about creating liveliness? That evening, Gu Yu's household was lively as the new year. Inside, electric lights illuminated everything brightly. Outside, under the eaves, a temporary 100-watt bulb was installed. Dazzling light made the surroundings blindingly white. Even the entrance fence and kitchen with emerging cooking smoke and steam were clearly visible. Fennel alone couldn't manage. She'd invited Sister Hu to help. 2 women bustled around the kitchen. Firewood crackled in the stove. The big iron pot had water added several times. Glutinous rice in the steamer began emitting fragrant aromas. In the main room, Gu Yu had already washed the pounding mortar clean. Saibi pestles were inserted into a wooden bucket full of clear water, just waiting for steamed glutinous rice to emerge. Pounding Saiba truly required brute strength. Little Cripple's lame leg couldn't exert force pounding Saiba. Gu Yu arranged for him to carry glutinous rice from the kitchen to the main room. When Kitchen Fennel uncovered the steamer lid and scooped steamed glutinous rice into winnowing baskets, Little Cripple would carry the basket, rushing from the kitchen toward the main room. Glutinous rice was sticky, had to be pounded hot to pulverize. The time between steamer and mortar should be as short as possible, so Little Cripple ran extremely fast. That lame leg, like a fully wound clock hand, shot straight forward, not at all slower than able-bodied people. Ma La and several men also busied themselves. They grabbed Saiba pestles, surrounding the mortar, pounding as they circled. In less than 1 cigarette's time, distinctly grained glutinous rice in the mortar became a sticky rice ball. At this moment, several Kaiba pestles exerted force simultaneously. The glutinous rice ball was lifted high, falling heavily onto a nearby wooden board table. Gu Yu, sleeves rolled up and prepared, before long shaped the glutinous rice ball into a flat round saiba resembling a wheel. Each time finishing pounding 1 saiba, pestles stuck with quite a lot of pulverized glutinous rice, Shen Huangzhou called it saiba tongs. This was a delicacy in children's eyes. Often, before adults put down pestles, they were snatched away. Gu Yu's son Tadpole was no exception. Before Tsiba was half finished pounding, his belly was already stuffed round with saiba tongs. One session of Tsiba pounding left even robust men exhausted. However, Fennel had prepared the late-night snack. Called late-night snack, it was actually more sumptuous than formal meals. Having just butchered the New Year pig, Gu Yu specially saved the pig heart and lungs for today's kiba pounding preparation. In Shenhuangzhou, those invited to drink heart-lung soup were all honored guests. For Gu Yu, Ma La was his honored guest. So when eating, he was naturally invited to sit at the head seat. Ma La's heart naturally felt very happy. These days, his heart had been happy. Every few days being invited by villagers to help pound chiba made him feel as if returning to childhood. Whenever any village household pounded seba, a gang of playmates would run to that household, specially waiting for adults to put down pestles, then swarming up hugging pestles to gnaw seba tongs. Back then, the joy of saiba pounding brought playmates was second only to the New Year. Of course, what made Ma La's heart even happier was Gu Yu's household's increasingly prosperous days. In his heart, Gu Yu wasn't an ordinary villager, not even just a former student, but these years' Tongxin cooperative comrade-in-arms and assistant who'd struggled together with him. When happy, one can't help wanting to drink. Drinking too much makes the mind active. Ma La hadn't touched alcohol for a long time. Today he broke the prohibition. It was just now that the idea popped up. Gu Yu, quite a few young people have returned to the village. Let's organize a dragon dance team to enliven the village atmosphere. As soon as these words emerged, not only Gu Yu but several others all expressed agreement. Great. Our village hasn't performed the dragon dance for many years. New Year is getting more and more boring. Teacher Ma, when I was young, I learned dragon lantern dancing. If a dragon dance team really forms, I'll be first to sign up. These years, the village has been deathly quiet. Should really liven things up. But some raised questions. Establishing a dragon dance team costs money. Where does the money come from? Ever since the state abolished the agricultural tax, that gang of village committee cadres are too lazy to manage anything, let alone pay out money. Gu Yu grandly waved his hand. Don't count on the village. This money our cooperative will pay. Saying this, he turned his gaze toward Ma La, seemingly seeking his opinion. But Ma La didn't immediately take a position. Instead, he thought, then said to Gu Yu, cooperative bylaws don't have this expenditure. We must strictly follow regulations. Gu Yu grew anxious. Then, what to do? No problem. It's not much money. I'll pay. Ma La smiled. This year my kiwis sold for quite some money. Gu Yu shook his head. Won't work. How can village matters require you alone to pay? Besides, when establishing the cooperative, your contributed capital still hasn't been repaid. Gu Yu, when did you become so fussy, endlessly calculating these penny-pinching accounts? Hearing Ma La say this, Gu Yu's face involuntarily reddened. Immediately he stated, Since Teacher Ma wants to pay, I'll also pay half. My family's harvest this year wasn't bad either. Besides, I'm at minimum the cooperative's vice director. How can I fall behind? Seeing Gu Yu's serious manner, Ma La half-jokingly said, Household spending matters. Without Fennel's approval, can you decide alone? Teacher Ma, you're underestimating Fennel. Since I returned from city work, she's never held me back. Before the words finished, Fennel, carrying a freshly stir-fried dish, entered the main room from the kitchen. She vigilantly glared at Gu Yu, asking, When did I hold you back? Everyone burst into laughter. Gu Yu could only explain the matter's ins and outs. Fennel set down the dish bowl, looking at Ma La. Other matters Gu Yu says may not count, but this matter I support. Ma La's gaze swept back and forth between the Gu Yu-Fennel couple's faces. He couldn't help praising, truly a like-minded pair. Come, I toast you. Fennel, who never drank, straightforwardly picked up a wine cup from the table, clinked with Ma La, drinking it in one gulp. Seeing his wife so forthright, how could Gu Yu fall behind? Following suit, he tilted his neck back, draining his cup. Before many days passed, Shen Huangzhou's dragon dance team was established. Aside from Ma La, Gu Yu, and Tao Guangjin, the dragon dance team also absorbed 2 young men who had returned from city work, basically all Tongxin cooperative members. So, villagers all regarded this dragon dance team as the cooperatives. The dragon dance team quickly began intense rehearsal stages. The location was at Ma La's home. Since Shen Huangzhou hadn't had dragon dancing for so many years, village adults and children all found it novel. Like watching a peep show, they ran to watch dragon dance team rehearsals, packing Ma La's windmill house to overflowing. Tao Guangjin had danced the dragon when young. Others, including Ma La and Gu Yu, were all first-time dragon dancers. So Tao Guangjin became a genuine drill instructor. Among team members aside from him, Ma La was the oldest. Initially, when making movements, none were proper, making several young men burst into mocking laughter. This actually stimulated Ma La's unyielding spirit. He learned more seriously and didn't mind being pushed around by Tao Guangjin. After rehearsing for 2 days, the one with the most standard movements wasn't the young man. It was Ma La. While this dragon dance team gang rushed to practice dragon dancing, striving to show off before all the village elders during Spring Festival, on the other hand, Zhao Guangfu heard that Tongxin Cooperative had established a dragon dance team, and Ma La even personally participated in dragon dancing. His heart went thump, awakening from the joy of his daughter Man Yu's marriage. Hands behind his back, he circled Old Wan's small shop entrance, hearing everyone discussing the dragon dance team matter. Tongxin Cooperative and Ma La truly stole all the limelight this time. Zhao Guangfu couldn't help thinking. Shen Huangzhou wasn't Tongxin Cooperative's, much less Ma La's. He, Zhao Guangfu, in Shen Huangzhou, wasn't a dispensable character either. This veteran Shen Huangzhou farmer, insect-resistant cotton cooperative director, felt this wasn't a small matter, but was concerned about who was Shen Huangzhou's number 1 and number 2 going forward. Zhao Guangfu realized the seriousness of the problem. He pondered at home for a whole day and didn't sleep well that night. The next day, he finally made a decision. In the cotton cooperative's name, establish a lion dance team. All expenses he'd bear alone. News that the insect-resistant cotton cooperative was establishing a lion dance team quickly spread through Shen Huangzhou. Village adults and children all clapped with joy, calling out that this year's spring festival would truly liven up. Some keen-nosed villagers sensed something unusual. The village almost simultaneously sprouted a dragon dance team and a lion dance team. All leaders were heavyweight figures from Shen Huangzhou's 2 cooperatives. Good heavens. This was clearly a big competition, a big contest posture. As if in just an eye blink, the annual spring festival arrived. On New Year's Day morning, although it neither snowed nor rained, the weather was bitterly cold and dry. Weather forecasts showed temperatures reached -3 degrees. Thick cowskin ice froze roads hard as boards. Quite a few early-rising pedestrians visiting relatives for the new year slipped, gifts in hands flung far away. Precisely at this hour, Shen Huangzhou's dragon dance team and lion dance team began making commotion. Clanging gong and drum sounds yanked children still dreaming from warm quilts. Not even bothering with breakfast, eyes half closed, they rushed toward the gong drum blaring place. The dragon dance team and the lion dance team initially did their own thing, separately going from household to household to wish villagers a happy new year. In the countryside, both dragons and lions were auspicious symbols. Letting them make commotion inside and outside one's home could both drive away evil spirits and welcome wealth and luck for the new year. So everyone hoped both the lion dance team and the dragon dance team would perform at their homes for a while. Moreover, the lychee given was generous, all fine white sand cigarettes they normally wouldn't smoke themselves. If dragon dance or lion dance teams performed well, some even produced 100 yuan bills. Therefore, both dragon and lion dance teams demonstrated their skills, using every ounce of their ability. The team with more spectators had a more outstanding performance. Little Cripple specifically took charge of collecting gifts for the Dragon Dance team. Before long, the burlap sack he carried was filled with various cigarette brands. Whether by coincidence or pre-planned, the Dragon Dance team and the Lion Dance team coincidentally met at Zhao Guangfu's household entrance. One dragon and one lion, plus spectator crowds of men, women, and old and young following behind, merged together. Zhao Guangfu's entrance became a sea of people, like a concert. People spontaneously cleared space at Zhao Guangfu's entrance for performances by the Dragon and Lion Dance teams. As the gong drum sounds suddenly became rapid and high-pitched, the Dragon Dance and Lion Dance teams performed various difficult movements. One moment, the dragon surrounded the lion in the middle. The next moment, the lion leaped over the dragon's body. Left, then right, high, then low, both teams' movements and speed grew faster and faster, dazzling people unable to distinguish each other, making people so nervous and excited they couldn't catch their breath. Later, the dragon and lion suddenly jumped aside, separately circling Zhao Guangfu's household 3 times. According to custom, only highly respected households received this lion-dragon encircling house performance. This was the Lion Dance and Dragon Dance team's highest courtesy to Zhao Guangfu. Zhao Guangfu set off a 10,000 cracker string. When Man Yu married, his household had several strings of firecrackers left over. They hadn't needed to buy more for the new year. Amid deafening firecracker sounds, Zhao Guangfu saw Ma La, together with Gu Yu and several young men, hoisting a yellow giant dragon, their faces soaked with sweat. A firecracker exploded very near him. Splattered paper scraps fell on his face. He didn't even bother wiping them away, again waving the yellow dragon, beginning a contest with the approaching lion. This Ma La, over 40 years old, still playing this jumping around game with young men. Showing off like this, what's he really after? Just as Zhao Guangfu was thinking this, the Dragon Dance team suddenly stopped. The crowd let out startled cries. Zhao Guangfu looked up to see that Ma La had somehow fallen to the ground. Chapter 27. As chemical fertilizers came to be heavily used in agricultural production, Chinese milk vetch gradually disappeared from the plains, to the point where now many young farmers don't even know what Chinese milk vetch is. Winter departed. Spring arrived. Though the weather alternated between clear and cloudy, warm and then cold, it ultimately began warming. After several days of continuous drizzle, trees before and behind every Shenhuangzhou household seemed painted over by someone's brush, suddenly bursting with countless goose-yellow tender buds. Embankments' withered dogtail grass also began turning green again. Winter wheat that had bitterly endured an entire winter was first to straighten its delicate body from ashen soil clods, growing sturdier day by day. Rapeseed naturally wasn't willing to lag behind either. Just past February's flowering period, vast expanses of rapeseed flowers bloomed. Initially, these golden rapeseed flowers were only scattered points, not forming much momentum. But by March, rapeseed flowers spread like flames across the plains. This season, if you traveled by vehicle across the plains, you'd feel like being in a sea of flowers. In the 1960s to 70s plains, what was most commonly seen wasn't actually rapeseed flowers, but Chinese milk vetch. Note, Astragalus sinicus, also called Zi Yunying. Back then, Chinese milk vetch was farmers' most beloved green fertilizer. After harvesting rice the previous year, people would sow Chinese milk vetch seeds. Next year, upon spring's arrival, these extremely tenacious plants, disregarding spring's lingering cold, would vigorously grow from cold, damp rice paddies. Chinese milk vetch flowers were pink, clustered like grapes. When blooming most abundantly, more gorgeous than morning clouds, more brilliant than flames. In farmers' eyes, Chinese milk vetch truly was a treasure, both serving as green fertilizer and feeding cattle and pigs. Looking charming and graceful, very pleasing to the eye. Later, as chemical fertilizers came to be heavily used in agricultural production, Chinese milk vetch gradually disappeared from the plains, to the point where now many young farmers don't even know what Chinese milk vetch is. But this year, Chinese milk vetch, which had disappeared for years, reappeared in Shenhuangzhou. Those planting this green fertilizer plant weren't all Shenhuangzhou villagers, but only Tongxin cooperative farmers. Heavens, what flowers are these? Too beautiful. The pretty, fashionably dressed young woman uttered this exclamation. She sat in a motorized three-wheeler. The driver was a handsome young man with a conspicuous horseshoe-shaped scar on his forehead. He was Bao Xiaoli. At this moment, Bao Xiaoli was driving the motorized three-wheeler along the flat cement canal road toward Shenhuangzhou. Hearing the beautiful girl behind him exclaim in such an unfamiliar Wuhan accent, he couldn't help but find it somewhat funny. Secretly thinking, city girls probably can't even distinguish chives from wheat, right? However, this girl was truly too beautiful, so beautiful that he couldn't bear to mock her. Just now, Bao Xiaoli, driving his three-wheeler after delivering express packages back to Heku's crossroads, happened to see a long-distance bus from the provincial capital Wuhan stop before him. When the door opened, the first to emerge was this girl. Wearing sunglasses, long hair over shoulders gracefully poised, that face white as congealed cream, long, full legs, plus that proud, princess-like temperament only big city girls possessed, immediately attracted Bao Xiaoli. He loudly asked, "Hey, beauty, where are you going?" The girl turned her gaze to Bao Xiaoli, scrutinizing him, revealing a distrustful expression. "How do I see you don't look like someone driving Mamu?" Pure Wuhan accent, carrying a rebelliously unconventional flavor. "Haha, I've run three-wheelers in Heku for several years. First time anyone said I don't look like someone in this trade. How strange." Bao Xiaoli adopted a veteran tone. He'd obviously lied, because starting last year he'd signed with SF Express, changing careers to run express deliveries. Only when having no express business would he occasionally do passenger transport. But the provincial capital girl believed his words. Carrying a bulging denim bag with one sweep of her long legs, she boarded the three-wheeler. This actually made Bao Xiaoli anxious. "Beauty, you haven't told me where you're going yet." The girl, one hand holding the denim bag to her chest, the other fumbling an envelope from her small bag, glanced at the address, asking, "I'm going to Shenhuangzhou." "How much?" "Don't rip people off. Ripping would be wasted. I have no money." Bao Xiaoli was amused by the girl's words, thinking, today meeting such a beauty, wouldn't give money, I'd deliver for free. After the vehicle left Heku, he kept trying to chat up the young woman. "Going to Shenhuangzhou to visit relatives? I know everyone there. Who are you looking for?" "I'm looking for someone surnamed Ma, called Ma La. Do you know him?" "Ma La?" Bao Xiaoli laughed. "He's my uncle, also my biggest client. His orchard's kiwis are all express delivered through me, also Tongxin brand ecological rice." The young woman wasn't interested in Bao Xiaoli's words, but cast a curious gaze toward both sides' crops. Spring fields in a city girl's eyes were like a colorful, breathtakingly beautiful grand park, enough for her to appreciate for a while. When the three-wheeler entered Shenhuangzhou, vast expanses of Chinese milk vetch, gorgeous as rosy clouds and rice paddies, finally made the city-visiting young woman unable to help crying out. This gave the self-perceived snubbed Bao Xiaoli a chance to show off. He quickly introduced tour guide style. "This is Chinese milk vetch, can both feed pigs and cattle and serve as green fertilizer. However, the plains haven't planted it for many years. These beautiful flowers, why not plant them?" "You think farmers plant crops for beauty?" Bao Xiaoli teased. "Now farming all uses chemical fertilizer. Only Uncle Ma, this person—" "Uncle Ma? Ma La. You're saying these beautiful Chinese milk vetches are related to him?" "Exactly. Besides him, who'd be willing to waste a season's rapeseed just to plant green fertilizer? Why does he do this?" "Isn't it because of his Tongxin brand ecological rice? Know what ecological rice means? No pesticides, no chemical fertilizer. That rice truly tastes great." At this moment, the three-wheeler had already passed through the village, reaching the river embankment. Bao Xiaoli pointed ahead. See that building with a windmill on the roof? Uncle Ma lives there. Hearing this, the girl quickly called to stop. Just stop here. I'll walk over myself. So saying, she paid Bao Xiaoli the fare. Bao Xiaoli declined. Since you're Uncle Ma's guest, why pay? But the girl seemingly didn't appreciate this favor. He's him, I'm me. Two different matters. She stuffed money into Bao Xiaoli's hand, swept her long legs, and impatiently walked toward that building below the embankment. Bao Xiaoli called from behind. Hey, beauty, dare you leave your name? What's there not to dare? The girl nonchalantly tossed back a sentence. I'm called Tang Cower. Tang Cower had escaped from the drug rehabilitation center. She'd already lost count of how many times she'd entered the drug rehabilitation center and how many times she'd escaped from it. Ever since age 17, when she got addicted to drugs at a Hongkou riverside disco called Red Moon, her mother Tang Lina and stepfather Old Chen forcibly sent her to the drug rehabilitation center. That place became her frequently visited location. Initially, she was terrified of that drug rehabilitation center by Yanxi Lake, resembling both hospital and prison. Each time receiving compulsory detoxification, she felt like undergoing severe punishment. Whether injections, pills, or doing those somewhat comical physical therapy exercises under counselor guidance, what detoxification personnel called rehabilitation center recovery physicians, Tang Cower harbored almost instinctive rejection. She fundamentally didn't admit needing detoxification, didn't even consider herself drug-using. How could something letting people instantly forget pain, enter joyful realms be drugs? Moreover, most disco sisters all use that stuff. Tang Cower thought it over and over. Only one conclusion, including Mother Tang Lina, stepfather Old Chen, plus rehabilitation center recovery physicians, all were tormenting and deceiving her. So-called detoxification was merely a pretense and excuse for imprisoning and tormenting her. Realizing this, Tang Cower felt very sad, because she'd always thought Mother Tang Lina was the only person in this world who loved her. She hadn't expected now Tang Lina also joined Old Chen in retaliating against herself. Yes, retaliation. She felt using this word to describe her predicament was too accurate. Tang Cower felt that her stepfather, Old Chen, had always been seeking opportunities to retaliate against her. Over a decade ago, when Tang Cower followed her mother, Tang Lina, from Yanhe County to the provincial capital Wuhan, she had just turned 10. 10-year-old Tang Cower was somewhat precocious, prominent forehead, big eyes, fair skin, long legs, looking like she'd emerged from the same mold as Mother Tang Lina. But Tang Cower had seen photos of her mother when young. Tang Lina's nose bridge was round like a peeled garlic head. If not applying thick powder, you could see dense pores, while her own nose bridge was straight and upright, smooth and white as ivory. Aside from your nose resembling your dad, everywhere else resembles me, Tang Lina said. Tang Cower, of course, knew Mother wasn't talking about the current stepfather, Old Chen, nor Yanhe County's previous stepfather, Li Haijun, but her biological father, whom she'd never met since birth. Mother's words obviously aroused curiosity long hidden in her heart. Timidly, she asked, "My dad, what was he like?" Tang Lina seemed to realize she'd let something slip. Suddenly her face darkened, saying, "He's dead." This icy sentence like a stone knocked Tang Cower into a bottomless abyss. Tang Cower later thought everything started that summer evening. She'd just passed her 10th birthday not long before. Mother Tang Lina ran a clothing wholesale business on Hanzheng Street, leaving early every day and returning very late. That evening, she felt somewhat unwell. As soon as it got dark, she fell asleep. At midnight, she felt something pressing on her. Initially, she thought she was dreaming. She often had nightmares, either pressed under millstones or falling into unfathomably deep cliffs, each time waking in cold sweat. But this time was different. This time, what pressed on her wasn't stone, but a person. Confused, she heard heavy panting and a foul smell, like from a cesspit. A hand rubbed at her already developing chest. She hurt so much she wanted to cry out, but her mouth was covered by a hand, making her unable to breathe. She felt herself about to suffocate, finally waking. When she opened her eyes, she discovered someone indeed pressed on her body. A fat, barrel-like bald man. It was stepfather Chen Guangsheng. Tang Taoer was stunned, taking quite a while to recover. Ever since Mother Tang Lina brought her to live with old Chen, this man, looking at her, always had that leering gaze, sweeping over her body as if wanting to swallow her whole, utterly shameless even when Tang Lina was home. Similar gazes, previously in Yanhei, she'd also seen from former stepfather Li Haijun's eyes. Initially, Tang Taoer didn't understand what this gaze meant. Later, she gradually understood, because she discovered that both stepfathers, flirting with Mother, always had this gaze. When ordinarily intimate together, they never avoided her. At night, when having sex, they didn't even close the doors. This made her glimpse secret intimacies between adult men and women prematurely. In that instant, Tang Taoer understood what old Chen wanted to do to her. She recalled Li Haijun had also once sneaked into her room at midnight, only staring lecherously but never acting. Now, old Chen was truly acting. Enormous fear and revulsion seized Tang Taoer. Like a young beast trapped in desperate straits, she suddenly grabbed the desk lamp from the bedside table, smashing it toward old Chen, pressing on her. The lamp struck old Chen on the forehead. Caught off guard, old Chen screamed, covering his forehead with his hands, rolling off the bed. Tang Taoer, barefoot, fled from the room. From then on, stepfather old Chen, with a scar-marked forehead, looked at Tang Taoer with a gloomy gaze, constantly finding fault with her. After younger brother was born, old Chen's attitude became even worse, lightly scolding, heavily cursing. Initially, Tang Taoer tried seeking Mother's protection. But Tang Lina poured all her thoughts on her son, turning a blind eye to conflicts between her and old Chen. This made Tang Taoer increasingly insecure, constantly worrying stepfather old Chen would retaliate for the forehead scar. She conceived the idea of escaping from home. Fortunately, next year when Tang Taoer graduated from elementary school to middle school, Tang Lina sent her to a boarding school in Hankou. During 3 full middle school years, Tang Taoer rarely returned home. She'd already regarded herself as an orphan in her heart. After experiencing 2 stepfathers' harassment, Tang Taoer matured much earlier than all the same-age girls, both psychologically and physically. But conversely, she became even more insecure. This is obviously related to a lack of fatherly love from childhood. But for Tang Taoer, father from childhood was only a strange, abstract concept, or a puppet already deformed under Mother Tang Lina's long-term curses. Mother's hatred toward father more or less influenced her perception of father. But Tang Taoer hadn't anticipated that, after moving into boarding school, this hatred slowly changed. She increasingly longed to understand her biological father, that mysterious man who, after siring her, never appeared again. Hatred and longing thus mysteriously mixed together, controlling her will, transforming her into a girl with a solitary personality, full of fantasies. One summer vacation, when Tang Taoer returned home to fetch seasonal clothes, she accidentally discovered several faded old photos in her mother's paint-peeled wooden trunk. One was a photo of Mother Tang Lina with a strange man. That man in the photo was tall and handsome, gaze wildly unruly, facial angles distinct, as if carved by a sculptor's knife, especially that straight nose. Tang Taoer subconsciously touched her own nose. Yes, that man's nose resembled hers too much. More importantly, from first seeing that photo man, she felt very familiar, as if she had seen him somewhere before. Tang Taoer held the old photo and asked his mother who this man was. "Is he my dad?" Tang Lina froze, face turning deathly pale. She snatched the photo away, tearing it to shreds in 2 or 3 rips, saying while tearing, "He was my former arts troupe colleague. He has no damn relation to you." But if he has no relation to me, why tear up the photo? Tang Taoer wondered puzzledly. She felt Mother seemed deliberately concealing something from her. From then on, Tang Taoer often dreamed of that man photographed with Mother. Each dream was surprisingly similar. The man wore a beige windbreaker, hands in pockets, walking alone on a spacious road. Both sides lined with dense, straight, tall poplars rather than French plane trees commonly seen in cities. She chased from behind, unable to catch up, no matter how hard she tried, as if a rope pulled her from behind. She anxiously shouted, "Wait for me!" But that man, as if unhearing, deliberately avoiding, strode extremely fast, turning a corner, flashing ahead, then disappearing. At vocational school, Tang Tower's schoolwork wasn't great, but she sang well. Every school art performance, vocal first prize belonged to none but her. She became the vocational school's eye-catching little songstress. Music teachers often praised her in front of the whole class for resembling Wang Fei. Of course, not talking about her appearance, but her voice. Indeed, Tang Tower had a pure, gentle voice. Her favorite singer was also Wang Fei. She'd collected almost all of Wang Fei's CDs. When Tang Tower sang Encounter 1998 and Easily Wounded Woman, she almost truly made people mistake her for singer Wang Fei. Actually, quite a few classmates privately called her Little Wang Fei. This undoubtedly greatly satisfied her vanity. With this talent, before Tang Tower graduated from technical secondary school, she began singing at a Hankou riverside disco called Dream Paris. From that time on, she no longer depended on her mother, Tang Lina, or her stepfather, Old Chen, and began supporting herself. Later, Tang Tower met painter Liu Tang. Liu Tang was a man in his 40s, short, slightly plump, plain-looking. Like all artistic men, he kept his hair long, woman-like. When sitting in the disco drinking beer while appreciating singers' performances, if not for his full beard, he'd easily be mistaken for a woman. When Tang Tower first saw Liu Tang, she nearly did. That evening, she'd sung several songs in succession, somewhat tired. Just wanting to go down and rest a while, someone sent up another song request slip, Wang Fei's Ambiguous. She'd just sung this song twice. She wanted to refuse, but disco boss Brother Wei said, "This request, you can't refuse." She asked why. Brother Wei said this customer has come every day, listening to songs for nearly a month, and has only requested you. How can you bear refusing such a hardcore fan? Brother Wei squeezed his eyes at her, half serious, half joking. Tang Tower hesitated, had to sing this Ambiguous once more. Just after finishing, Brother Wei brought over a woman-haired, full-bearded, short, plump man, saying to her, "Kawer, let me introduce, this is teacher Liu Tang, a famous painter from Wuhan Painting Academy." So, the one requesting her songs every day for a month was this plain-looking old man. Tang Tower felt somewhat disappointed. Liu Tang said, "Can I buy you a beer?" She'd originally wanted to refuse, but Brother Wei answered for her before she could speak. She didn't want to disrespect Brother Wei. She was still a newcomer. Offending Brother Wei meant smashing her own rice bowl. Moreover, Brother Wei ordinarily treated her well. "Fine, Brother Wei, I'll listen to you." From that evening on, each time after singing, Liu Tang invited Tang Tower for a beer. Until one day Liu Tang gazed at her, using an admiring tone. "Tower, you not only have a good voice but a first-class figure too. Such a good figure not modeling is too wasteful." Then he quoted a price directly. "If you're willing to model for me, one evening I'll pay double your singing wages." Tang Tower, just beginning self-support, found money held an irresistible allure. She agreed. Tang Tower thus followed Liu Tang into that Hankou Daji Road studio where a mix of paint and mold smells wafted. Liu Tang's studio was filled with various oil paints, frames, and some unfinished, partially completed oil paintings. Of course, Liu Tang also bought back oil painting masterworks from Beijing, Shanghai, and abroad. Messy as a warehouse. Liu Tang liked drinking while painting, saying this helped stimulate creative inspiration. His alcohol was quite mixed, both beer, wine, plus foreign liquor brought back from abroad. Liu Tang's typical artist manner offset the initial sleazy impression given Tang Tower. So, when Liu Tang asked if she also wanted a gin, after a slight hesitation, she agreed. Tang Tower never anticipated. It was this gin that made her dazedly follow Liu Tang into the studio's screen-partitioned rest area with an exceptionally spacious big bed. Waking, she felt faint pain between her legs, plus her head felt like it was stuffed with hemp cloth, dizzy and muddled. Too late to dress, she rushed out from the screen, questioning painting Liu Tang. "You liar, hooligan! What did you put in the wine?" Liu Tang set down his brush, slightly smiling. "Little sweetheart, as long as it entrances, who cares what it is?" Tang Chaoer only later learned that Liu Tang had put opium in that gin. From then on, she became unable to leave this stuff, or Liu Tang. Each time after drinking, she fell into inexplicable hallucinations. Her body became like a juicy tropical fruit, emitting scorching breath. As soon as she closed her eyes, many previously imagined things miraculously appeared before her, including that man in a beige windbreaker she'd often dreamed of. This time, Tang Chaoer not only caught up with him, but also tightly embraced him. Enormous happiness made her whole body tremble, her heartbeat accelerate. Like having the shakes, she moaned, loudly shouting, "Dad!" Liu Tang was startled by this strange cry. Before long, Liu Tang's wife, a woman with a head full of curls, kicked open the studio door, blocking Liu Tang and Tang Chaoer, who were lying in the big bed inside. From then on, Liu Tang disappeared from Tang Chaoer's life. But Tang Chaoer's dependence on opium not only didn't weaken alongside Liu Tang, but actually became even stronger than before. Brother Wei once again helped her. She began using various drugs, from white powder, ice, heroin injections, to ecstasy. She discovered Brother Wei didn't only provide these things to her alone. Many disco singers had habits of using white powder. As for ecstasy, not only these singers, but also quite a few disco customers came to sing like it. Until one day when police suddenly raided the disco, on-site discovering heroin on Tang Chaoer and several singers, plus in Brother Wei's office. Dream Paris was sealed. Brother Wei was sentenced for trafficking and selling drugs. Tang Chaoer and several underage singers were sent to the Drug Rehabilitation Center. At the rehabilitation center, addicts were all called students. When Tang Chaoer first entered the rehabilitation center at only 16, the youngest among students, she performed very actively and proactively during detoxification. After 3 months, all indicators reached expected targets. When leaving the rehabilitation center, both recovery physicians and Tang Chaoer thought she'd forever bid farewell to the rehabilitation center and drugs. After being brought home by her mother, Tang Lina didn't look for work for half a year. Tang Lina felt Chaoer's drug addiction stemmed entirely from working in disco environments, so she wouldn't let her sing at discos again. "Just stay home. Mom can support you." For a long time, Tang Chaoer never left home except to game online, all day with nothing to do. But even so, her drug addiction still unavoidably relapsed. She quickly learned online about Wuhan's underground drug market, buying heroin. When secretly injecting in her own room, stepfather Old Chen discovered her. Old Chen immediately phoned to report her. When police came to take her away, Mother Tang Lina's eyes red, holding her hand. "Chaoer, don't blame Mom, don't blame Old Chen either. We're all doing this for your good." Gradually, Tang Chaoer became the rehabilitation center's youngest yet most senior student. Each time sent back to the rehabilitation center for relapse, those recovery physicians greeted her smiling like old friends, clapping while saying, "Welcome our outstanding student back." They truly welcomed Tang Chaoer from the bottom of their hearts, because each detoxification student's fees were paid by parents. Of course, the state also subsidized part of it, but also allocated it per capita, meaning each additional student meant one more share of income for the rehabilitation center. Recovery physicians didn't truly care whether each student genuinely, thoroughly quit drugs. Conversely, they hoped each student would have second palace entry opportunities, because only this way would the rehabilitation center's student sources continuously flow, their income guaranteed. Precisely for this reason, the rehabilitation center also turned a blind eye to students escaping midway. As long as addiction wasn't thoroughly eliminated, escaping today meant being sent back tomorrow. This was called monk can run, but temple can't. Conversely, re-entering meant paying another registration fee, an equivalent to increasing the rehabilitation center's income. Tang Tower also escaped from the rehabilitation center. She escaped so easily that she felt the rehabilitation center deliberately let her go. This time, Tang Tower didn't return home, but directly went to find a singing job at a Hankou riverfront disco. But before long, Tang Tower was reported by a police-planted informant while using drugs in the disco dressing room and sent to the rehabilitation center a third time. Tang Lina only learned when receiving a police phone notification to go to the rehabilitation center to pay fees. In the family visiting room, Tang Lina severely scolded Cower. "Cower, you're deliberately destroying this family. Destroying me and old Chen isn't enough. You want to destroy my son too, but he's at minimum your younger brother. He's about to enter 4th grade. If people know he has a sister like you, how can he hold his head up before classmates in the future?" she said through tears and snot. "Cower, this is the last time. If you're sent here again, don't call me your mom. I won't come pay money for you either." Tang Cower understood Mother's meaning. This was severing mother-daughter relations. Fine. I never had a father from childhood anyway. This time, losing my mother too, I'll be truly alone with no kin, she thought almost viciously. That was a destructive, degenerative pleasure. This time, Tang Tower didn't think of escaping again. She even secretly hoped to stay at the rehabilitation center forever, stay a lifetime. Until one day, a middle-aged man wearing an old army coat, disheveled hair, and a gentle gaze stood before her, kindly watching her, saying, "I'm your father's friend, called Ma La. I came to see you entrusted by your father before death. I originally should have come 8 years ago. Didn't expect to delay this long. Sorry." Tang Tower felt this man's tone resembled repentance, sounding like a priest, especially that low voice which moved people very easily. At that moment, she nearly believed. But she quickly became alert. Liu Tang's lesson made her never easily trust any man again, even if this person came in her father's name. "I have no father. I never had a father," Tang Cower sneered. "You liar! Wherever you came from, hurry back there." Saying this, she felt herself shaking all over like having the shakes, teeth chattering, nearly unable to stand steady. That man quickly came over, supporting her, softly asking, "Child, what's wrong?" That gentle child nearly made Tang Tower shed tears. But how could she cry before a stranger she regarded as a liar? She clenched her teeth, desperately holding back. Leaving that strange man, returning to the dormitory, Tang Cower lay in bed for half the day and didn't even eat dinner. The next day she recovered to normal. She thought she'd forgotten this matter. Before long, she received a letter signed Ma La from that man claiming to be her father's friend. She only cursorily browsed before tossing it in the wastebasket. Later, she received second and third letters. Tang Cower originally intended to keep ignoring them, but ultimately, she replied with one letter. Just after sending this letter, not long after, Mother Tang Lina, who'd declared she'd never come to the rehabilitation center to see her, came, holding a letter. One look at that handwriting. Tang Tower knew it was written by that person called Ma La. Tang Lina said, "Cower, Mom came this time to tell you. Your father was called Liu Yongjia. He was formerly a teacher at Yanhe County Teachers College. Our love once caused tremendous waves in Yanhe County." Tang Lina's narration astonished Tang Cower. Mother had always kept all information about her biological father tightly sealed. What reason today made her act so contrary to the norm? "Cower, this surnamed Ma person truly is your father's former student and assistant." Tang Lina calmed from her somewhat excited emotions just now. "Surnamed Ma wrote telling me your father left you an inheritance before death. A villa his father, meaning your grandfather, bought for your grandmother. Right at Wuchang Simenku, a Republican-era old building worth quite a bit of money." Mother's words made Tang Tower feel like hearing Arabian Nights tales. Mother's attitude and excited expression were out of the ordinary, which made her unable to believe it was genuine. But why didn't Ma La tell her directly instead of writing to her mother? Silly child, don't even understand this. I'm your mom, legally called what, right, guardian? Tang Lina, contrary to usual, chattered on. You're that old villa's only legal heir. This is what you deserve. Old Liu, your father this lifetime owes us, mother and daughter. Cower, Mom will definitely help you reclaim this inheritance. Tang Cower finally understood. Mother's true interest was that villa. Although still half believing her words, she couldn't remain indifferent. Not that she was greatly interested in that villa, but because this was so far the only evidence proving her biological father's existence. Another evidence was that a man called Malai Tang Cower again conceived the idea of escaping from the rehabilitation center. She wanted to see that man named Ma. She believed as long as she found Ma La, everything regarding father would come to light. Chapter 28. This was sufficient proof that Liu Yongjia was absolutely not merely a legend, but a man who truly existed. Tang Tower's arrival deeply surprised Ma La. Just then, he'd returned from the riverside orchard. Previously, he'd been applying fertilizer to kiwi trees, hands and feet still covered in black, grayish manure. Little Cripple crossed the embankment slope, running all the way, panting, nervously saying, "Uncle Ma, a sister from the city came looking for you." Ma La never anticipated Xiaoer would escape from the rehabilitation center, traveling all this distance to Shenhuangzhou to find him. Over half a year ago, he'd written Tang Lina a letter mentioning that old villa. Teacher Liu said this is the only inheritance he left his daughter, to make up 1/10,000th of guilt for failing to fulfill father's duty. He'd imperceptibly modified Teacher Liu's will, concealing his own status as villa heir. He did this, wanting Tang Lina to stop hiding Teacher Liu's existence from Cower, letting Cower know she'd once had a father who loved her. Ma La believed that if Teacher Liu had known of Cower's existence before his death, he'd certainly have done this. Cower neither believes my identity nor my words. Now only you, as a mother, can come forward to untie this knot, he pleaded in the letter. Please tell Cower her father loved her very much. That inheritance is powerful proof. Although Ma La had some understanding of Tang Lina from the last Wuhan visit, he believed that, for that inheritance, she'd set aside grudges against Teacher Liu, telling her daughter the truth. My mom always said that Liu, what's his name, right? Liu Yongjia, he wasn't my father. Now she suddenly changed her story, saying it's true, plus it inexplicably produced an old villa, made up like a TV drama. How do I know whether she lied before or is lying now? This was the first sentence Tang Tower said upon seeing Ma La. Logically speaking, Cower's words, of course, made sense. Ma La could answer like this. Distinguishing whether your mom is lying is simple, whether the old villa truly exists or not. But Ma La didn't say this. What he worried about was, Cower escaped from the rehabilitation center again this time. What about her future? Moreover, Cower and her mother, Tang Lina, had always had a strained relationship. Ma La thought, I must sit down and have a good talk with Cower, not rashly hand over the inheritance to Cower and send her away. But currently, Ma La couldn't attend to this matter. The day after tomorrow, he had to go with Gu Yu to Changsha to purchase new hybrid rice seeds. Just past the awakening of insects, he'd truly gotten busy. Orchard matters, cooperative matters all couldn't do without him. This year, after the new year, more farming households joined the cooperative. The rice paddy area nearly doubled compared to last year. Naturally, demand for rice seeds, fertilizer, and seeds further increased. Additionally, the newly built network promotion and sales platform needed further maintenance. Work matters were myriad and tangled. Ma La wished he could use a splitting technique. Tower, the day after tomorrow I must go to Changsha to buy rice seeds. Stay here a couple of days first. Ma La used a consulting tone. Your father, plus the villa matter. After I return from Changsha, I'll slowly tell you everything, okay? Staying means staying. Anyway, without clarifying the problem, I won't go back. Tang Tower answered very decisively. Ma La cleared out the upstairs study for Tang Tower to stay in, himself moving to the Sundry's storage room next to Little Cripple's room downstairs. Tang Cower thus stayed. News that Ma La's household suddenly had a pretty, fashionable city girl quickly spread through Shenhuangzhou. Villagers' fresh, curious gazes took wing, falling unanimously on the windmill-topped building at the embankment base. They not only noticed every move Tang Cower made and discussed every stylishly designed garment she wore, but also quietly speculated about her relationship with Ma La. The evening before Gu Yu left for Changsha, Fennel asked him, "Village people say that the girl is Teacher Ma's intended. Is it true?" Gu Yu was recording something in a small notebook. Impatiently, he snapped at her, "Are you still thinking about matchmaking for Teacher Ma?" Fennel was baffled by Gu Yu's snap, not understanding what he actually wanted to say. Gu Yu himself didn't clearly know what exactly he wanted to say, but he knew his own thoughts were actually about the same as the villagers. Initially, he'd also thought Tang Tower was Teacher Ma's intended. If she had no connection to Teacher Ma, why travel all this way from the provincial capital to find him? Could she be so bored that she had nothing better to do? Of course not. Gu Yu was someone who'd seen the world. He knew city girls not only were beautiful but also had big tempers and big guts. If liking some man, they didn't care how old he was or whether he had a wife. Could this Tang Tower also be this type of girl? Moreover, in Gu Yu's view, someone as outstanding as Teacher Ma should find a beauty much younger than himself. Ordinary country girls fundamentally couldn't match him. Previously, Fennel had muttered in his ear more than once, wanting to ask the Maiden family people to help Teacher Ma find a wife. A man without someone beside him to wash clothes and cook, so pitiful. But each time he poured cold water. With your Maiden family matchmaker's eyesight, how could introduced women match Teacher Ma? Better quit early, avoid failing as a matchmaker but offending Teacher Ma instead, making me unable to be a person in the future. Gu Yu said to Fennel. Fated for 1,000 miles to meet, unfated can't recognize face to face. Stop meddling. The woman fated for Teacher Ma will appear sooner or later. Therefore, when Tang Tower appeared in Shenhuangzhou, Gu Yu thought his prophecy had come true. He'd nearly congratulated Ma La to his face. The next day, very early, to finalize the list of farming households for purchasing hybrid rice seeds, Gu Yu went to the orchard to find Ma La. Awakening of insects past, under sunlight and rain's nourishment, the embankment slope, withered grass all turned green. The outer beach brimmed with spring vitality. The orchard was enveloped in a layer of faint morning mist. Kiwi tree branches had already sprouted green leaves, precisely the season when fertilizer application is needed. Ma La worked in the orchard every day, either applying fertilizer or using a hoe to loosen soil for every kiwi tree. Seeing him enter the orchard, Ma La set down his hoe, clapping mud-covered hands, walking to empty ground at the orchard edge to squat. He pulled out a cigarette pack, handed Gu Yu one, himself sticking one in his mouth. Gu Yu pulled out a lighter. Click, lit it, lighting Ma La's cigarette. The two smoked while discussing matters. After Gu Yu finished several urgent matters, he suddenly remembered something. Yesterday, Old Wan and Old Sun, several households also wanted us to help buy some rice seeds. How to handle this? Ma La kept his head down, pondering, and didn't immediately reply. Seeing us increase income so much last year, they also can't help feeling eager to try, Gu Yu said. But they haven't joined the cooperative. We can't help them buy rice seeds for free. The logic is like that, but as fellow villagers, not good to refuse either. Ma La took 2 puffs of a cigarette, raising his face. Besides, last year's cooperative rice yield increase wasn't solely rice seed credit. It directly relates to our rational use of farm manure. Your meaning agrees with them? Anyway, just bringing back some rice seeds along the way. Not much trouble. Ma La smiled, looking at Gu Yu. According to last year's distribution contracts, our current output can't meet demand. If they also plant rice using the methods our cooperative explored, Tongxin's ecological rice planting scale expands. This is good. What does it matter whether they've joined the cooperative? Gu Yu had originally worried that other cooperative farmers would have opinions. Hearing Ma La say this, he also dismissed his concerns. After finishing business, Ma La stood up, moving limbs somewhat numb from squatting too long, about to return to the orchard to continue working. But seeing that Gu Yu still had no intention of leaving, he couldn't help but feel puzzled. "Gu Yu, this afternoon we're leaving for Changsha. Won't you go back to help Fennel with work?" Gu Yu still didn't move. Ma La realized he still had something to say to himself. He turned around. "Gu Yu, if you have something, just say it. Why hesitate?" "Last night, Fennel heard village people saying that the city girl is your intended." "Good grief, Gu Yu. You believe such nonsense too?" Ma La looked at Gu Yu, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "That girl is called Tang Cower, my teacher's daughter. Before death, Teacher Liu entrusted her to me." Later, Ma La said much more about Teacher Liu and Tang Cower. But Gu Yu didn't really listen. He felt disappointed, thinking, "I'd rather Teacher Ma was lying to me. I'd rather believe villagers' speculation was true." That very afternoon, Gu Yu and Ma La in Heku boarded a long-distance bus to Changsha to purchase hybrid rice seeds. March was the season when plants and trees revived. The countryside was advancing from winter's monotonous black and white toward spring's varied colors. This change occurred inadvertently. Perhaps a dull thunderclap, or after several days' continuous rain, the originally bare branches before and behind the village sprouted light green new buds. As if suddenly, along ditches, pond edges, and field borders grew clumps and patches of tender little grass. In crop fields, rapeseed was busily jointing. Within 10 days or half a month, rapeseed flowers would surge forth, blooming, transforming the countryside into a golden sea. Pink, of course, was Chinese milk vetch, blooming splendidly in rice paddies like a just-emerging young lady from her chamber, not at all ostentatious like vast rapeseed flowers, appearing somewhat shy. While wheat that had lain dormant through the harsh winter had begun to green up. Green wheat fields were the countryside's March main color, like an army's vanguard, first bringing people spring's tidings. Newly arrived in Shenhuangzhou, Tang Tower felt fresh curiosity toward everything before her eyes. This girl, raised in the city from childhood, resembled a greenhouse plant suddenly placed in this spring, vibrant, magnificent natural world. She felt her whole body stretch open at once. Every breeze, every inch of air, every ray of sunlight made her blood vessels dilate. Her face, nearly pathologically pale from long indoor living, showed healthy rosiness. Having just arrived in a strange environment, Tang Cower's first 2 days in Shenhuangzhou didn't sleep well, always dreaming at night. That man in a beige windbreaker reappeared in her dreams. When she woke, her mind went blank. After quite a while, she realized she was in the countryside far from Wuhan, while the Ma La she sought had gone to Changsha yesterday to purchase rice seeds. The coincidences were so coincidental that she couldn't help but suspect, could this surnamed Ma man be deliberately avoiding her? But this thought only flashed through her mind before she denied it. After breakfast, Tang Cower had Little Cripple accompany her out for a stroll. Little Cripple happily agreed. Before leaving for Changsha, Ma La had entrusted Little Cripple with taking good care of Tang Cower. Aside from cooking, this included accompanying her to stroll. In Little Cripple's eyes, this city-visiting pretty sister resembled movie stars, every movement, every smile and frown rich with charming appeal. As an innocent, unawakened country youth, his eyes held no trace of improper thoughts, only humanity's deepest love and worship of feminine beauty, essentially no different from appreciating a sculpture or painting artwork. So, when Tang Cower proposed having him accompany her out to stroll, he felt somewhat honored and extremely happy. Quickly saying, "I was just about to erect kiwi trellises. Sister Cower, come with me to play in the orchard." Every day, Little Cripple spent time in the orchard, either doing this or that, or even if doing nothing, when tired from work, just leaning against a kiwi tree, sitting down, hearing the wind with sharp whistling blowing from the riverbank, kiwi branches swaying in the air with the wind like a group of dancing fairies. Little Cripple's heart felt extremely content. Uncle Ma once told him, like people, every kiwi tree had life. Little Cripple gradually understood this reasoning. Over time, he even figured out each tree's personality and temperament, knowing their respective fertilizer needs, which were more heat or cold tolerant, and which most feared, and which pests. The orchard rarely used pesticides. Uncle Ma said chemical fertilizers and pesticides would destroy fruit flavor and nutrition. Our Tungsten Cooperative's rice doesn't use those things. The orchard also tries not to use those things. Kiwis grown this way tasted sweet and fresh, not a trace of astringency. Last year, kiwis went on the market and sold out in less than half a month. Starting this year, Uncle Ma opened an online sales platform. Now kiwis hadn't even fruited yet, but people were placing orders online. Days ago, Ma La discussed with Little Cripple, plant kiwi trees on his family's several mu of responsibility land, too. Little Cripple was overjoyed. He'd been hoping for this day long ago. Previously, each time he proposed it, Uncle Ma always said, "We won't fight unprepared battles. After I break into the market, then expand production." Later, several more cooperative farming households requested that the original dry fields be converted to kiwi orchards. Before long, Uncle Ma and Gu Yu together went to Wuhan to purchase a batch of kiwi saplings. From then on, whenever Little Cripple worked in the riverside orchard, his heart couldn't help but think of his family's several mu of responsibility land, just planted with saplings. "I'll also have my own orchard," Little Cripple thought excitedly. Every few days he'd go look, fearing weasels or rabbits would gnaw the saplings. One night, Little Cripple dreamed. His family's responsibility land kiwi trees flourished luxuriantly, branches full of kiwis like green glowing gems, bending branches down. At this moment, Little Cripple was reinforcing trellises scattered by last year's heavy snow in the orchard. Tang Tower, watching Little Cripple work from the side, felt somewhat bored. While using tree branches to write and draw on the ground, she chatted with him intermittently. "Little Cripple, what is Old Ma to you?" "Who's Old Ma?" "Old Ma. Oh my, you're so dumb. Old Ma is your Uncle Ma. You're only a few years older than me. Logically, you should call him Uncle too. Just your country folk have many rules. I usually call men older than me this way. I even call my stepfather Old Chen." Tang Tower pursed her lips, curiously asking, "You and Uncle Ma? Ptwee, so awkward. I'll still call him Old Ma. You and Old Ma aren't related. How come you live together like family?" "What's strange about this? If not family, can't live like family." Little Cripple stopped his work and gave her a look. "I haven't asked you why you came looking for Uncle Ma. I've never heard Uncle Ma mention you before. You're just like, dropped from the sky, a fairy." "Why do you say I'm like a fairy?" Tang Tower asked curiously. "Because you're beautiful." Having said this, Little Cripple embarrassedly lowered his head. "Am I really beautiful?" A blush swept Tang Tower's fair face. She subconsciously touched her own cheek. Prettier than fairies." Fairies again. Tang Tower was tickled into giggling laughter by this peculiar comparison. As a disco singer who'd started working at 17, she of course knew she was beautiful. In Wuhan's song halls and discos, countless men had applauded her appeal and voice. She was accustomed to those praise sounds and applause, stained with saliva and the stench of money. But at this moment, facing a country youth's praise, she actually felt somewhat shy. Somewhere in her heart was touched. She fell silent. March's riverbank, though somewhat empty, already showed vigorous vitality. Reeds and mugwort grew somewhat aggressively, squeezing unnamed wildflowers and wild grass out of any foothold. When the wind blew, they straightened slender bodies, shaking heads as if flaunting amazing reproductive ability. The wave prevention forest resembled a group of mature young women, long since covered in green leaves. In another 10 days or half a month, snow-white willow catkins should dance sky-wide like snowflakes. River water still flowed unhurriedly along shallow channels like in winter, placid as a long mirror. Probably because the channel was too shallow, possibly because the loaded cargo was too heavy, passing ships sailed extremely slowly. Occasionally, the whistles sounded hoarse and low, feeble as a dying old person's sigh. From the orchard depths came squeaking sounds, sounding like puppy or rabbit cries. Tang Cower set down the tree branch, vigilantly standing, looking all around. What's making that sound? Hey, don't worry. It's Big Forest and Little Forest. Little Cripple squeezed his eyes at Tang Cower. They must be hungry, wanting food. Tang Cower's eyelashes fluttered, utterly astonished. Big Forest and Little Forest? Before Little Cripple's words finished, two small animals covered in spines emerged from the kiwi grove. In the blink of an eye, they climbed to Little Cripple's side, extending pointy little mouths toward his body, circling him while looking incredibly cute. "Little hedgehogs!" Tang Cower clapped, exclaiming. Little Cripple pulled green beans from his pocket, scattering them before the two hedgehogs. The hedgehogs immediately abandoned him, nimbly extending claws, wolfing food down. Tang Cower was stunned by this marvelous scene. Such cute little animals. Just why do you call them Big Forest and Little Forest? Uncle Ma gave them that name, Little Cripple explained. I don't know why either. Uncle Ma said there's a fairy tale called Big Forest and Little Forest. Big Forest and Little Forest have lived in the orchard for quite a while. Uncle Ma brings them food every day. When Uncle Ma's away, I bring them food. The little fellows are used to it. Every day at this time, they punctually emerge from the orchard. This itself is a fairy tale, Tang Cower murmured, reaching out to pet the hedgehogs. Perhaps feeling Tang Cower was strange, perhaps disliking being disturbed while eating, before she could touch them, they shrank back. Body spines immediately stood erect, each sharp as needles. Tang Cower's hand just touched a hedgehog when she yelped in pain. "Drew blood?" Little Cripple, as if he'd been pricked, cried out, grabbing Tang Cower's finger to look. Sure enough, it bled. After a slight hesitation, he lowered his head and opened his mouth. Before Tang Cower could react, Little Cripple had covered her wounded finger, vigorously sucking. After several sucks, he spat out blood froth with a ptui. "What are you doing?" Tang Cower stared at Little Cripple uncomprehendingly. "Hedgehog spines are poisonous. If not sucked out, you'll feel cold all over like having the shakes," Little Cripple said. "Once I was accidentally pricked. Uncle Ma sucked it for me. Then it was fine." So that's how it was. Tang Cower felt her previously painfully unbearable finger relax considerably. Only then did she think of those two hedgehogs. Turning her face, they'd vanished without a trace. "Ha, they're full. Went back to the orchard to catch insects," Little Cripple said, lifting his head to check the sky. "Nearly noon already. Big Forest and Little Forest are full. We should also go back for lunch." When Little Cripple left the orchard, he suddenly remembered something and told Tang Cower, "Wait for me a moment." So saying, he turned back into the orchard. A few minutes later, Little Cripple returned, hand magic trick-like, holding tender white mushrooms. He said, "Sister Cower, let's eat preserved meat with fresh mushrooms for lunch today, okay?" Hearing this, Tang Cower repeatedly called approval. The pricked finger didn't hurt at all. Evenings, Tang Cower always had trouble falling asleep. Country march nights were quiet and long. Outside the window, frog choruses surged like tides. Inside the room, a corner of the wall sounded like cricket chatter. Downstairs, Little Cripple was still watching TV. Every evening he watched TV very late, never going to bed before midnight. He loved watching war-ti-fi dramas the most. These violent TV dramas were what Tang Cower most detested. Mala's bedroom study was full of books and periodicals, messy as a general store. The desk had a computer that could access the internet. When truly unable to sleep, Tang Cower would play online games. At the rehabilitation center during recreation time, she and that gang of students spent almost all their time in the computer gaming room. Games could make people forget inner emptiness and restlessness. This was probably why the rehabilitation center indulged or even encouraged students to play computer games. But they didn't know. Games always had moments of stopping. Once stopped, that inexplicable emptiness and restlessness would, like ghosts, emerge from somewhere, regaining control of their minds and bodies. Computer games thus became another virus inside Tang Cower's body. She was unwilling to surrender, desperately trying to pull herself away from the computer. but leaving the computer, she didn't know how to pass this monotonous, boring time. Tang Tower was at this moment when she discovered that thick notebook. That notebook was placed in the left drawer of the computer desk. Initially, Tang Tower didn't know it was a book manuscript Ma La was writing. When she casually flipped a few pages, she suddenly saw Liu Yongjia, several characters. Wasn't this the legendary Liu Yongjia? Tang Tower's mind sharpened. She began reading this scrawled manuscript from beginning to end. Initially, Tang Tower's reading was casual, but as Ma La narrated, a tall, handsome, elegant man gradually emerged before her eyes. This famous university's top student transferred from the provincial capital to remote Yanhei Teachers College, later from an ordinary teacher transformed into a famous entrepreneur. Such experiences, however you looked, resembled a legendary novel's protagonist. Of course, in this unfinished manuscript, Liu Yongjia was only a secondary character. The real protagonist was Ma La himself. The main content narrates a youth following his mother and brother, drifting from water to settle in Shenhuangzhou, and how he grew up, beginning his own winding life story. As Ma La's teacher and guide, Liu Yongjia's image only appeared intermittently, dotting certain key nodes in his life journey, appearing fragmented. Some details, such as the romance between Liu Yongjia and Tang Lina and Liu Yongjia's final cause of death, were vaguely described. The author seemed deliberately evading or omitting something. But for Tang Tower, this was already enough, because this was sufficient proof that Liu Yongjia was absolutely not merely a legend, but a man who truly existed. He and Tang Lina had loved each other, meaning this man truly was her biological father. The entire night Tang Tower spent reading this manuscript. When she set down the notebook, day had already broken. Outside the window, birds chirped. Not far away, the village transmitted cattle and sheep, leaving pens commotion. Tang Tower yawned. Not only did she lack any sleepiness, her mind was exceptionally clear. She felt herself awakening from a confused, long dream illusion. Ma La and Gu Yu returned to Shenhuangzhou the afternoon 2 days later. During the round trip between Changsha and Yanhei, Ma La constantly thought of Tang Tower he'd left behind. He wasn't worried about Tower's daily life these days. Before leaving, he'd already instructed little Cripple. No need to worry. What Ma La thought about was how to talk to Tower about Teacher Liu, her biological father, after returning. Ever since seeing Tang Lina and Tang Tower mother-daughter in Wuhan years ago, Ma La felt a pleasantly surprised feeling. He was glad the solitary Teacher Liu actually had a daughter. If Teacher Liu were alive, what great comfort this would be. He secretly decided he wanted to repay debts for Teacher Liu, but he hadn't anticipated the Tang Lina he met was completely a pretentious petty merchant, lacking even basic trustworthiness. Especially after seeing Tang Tower at the rehabilitation center, the doubt and worry in his heart became increasingly strong. This pitiful child, she'd actually never known who her biological father was. Why did Tang Lina hide all this from her daughter? Just because Teacher Liu abandoned her? Precisely because of this, Ma La temporarily hid from Tang Lina's mother-daughter that inheritance Teacher Liu left. He felt compared to inheriting property, more importantly, Tang Tower should know who her biological father was. Over the years, several letter exchanges with Tang Tower all failed to help this girl extricate herself from drugs, believing in himself. In helpless desperation, Ma La had to write Tang Lina a letter, informing her of that inheritance matter. Just as he'd predicted, Tang Lina's attitude turned 180 degrees, agreeing to tell Tower about her and Liu Yongjia's relationship, having her accept that inheritance early. Ma La knew Tang Lina's true interest was the old villa. As long as Tower acknowledged her biological father, this didn't matter. But what Ma La utterly hadn't anticipated was that Tower would come alone to Shenhuangzhou to find him. This stubborn, decisive personality truly somewhat resembled Teacher Liu, including Tower's appearance, that straight nose and tall figure, which also highly resembled Teacher Liu. Ma La thought, if Teacher Liu knew he had a daughter who resembled him in both appearance and personality, his spirit in heaven would be so comforted. As soon as Ma La and Gu Yu returned to Shenhuangzhou, they busied themselves distributing rice seeds to cooperative farmers and several other village households. After finishing all this, nearly evening had arrived. Only then did he take the fish and meat bought after getting off the bus in Heku from a plastic bag, entering the kitchen to cook. Having neglected Tang Caower for several days, he wanted to personally cook and make something delicious to reward this uninvited guest. Ma La and Little Cripple bustled in the kitchen a while, then brought out a table of presentable dishes. These years living together with Little Cripple, sharing meals, ordinarily taking turns cooking, both their culinary skills had been trained. This was the most delicious meal Tang Caower had eaten since arriving in Shenhuangzhou. After everything was tidied away, Ma La, holding a teacup in one hand, a white sand cigarette pack bought in Changsha in the other, came upstairs to the study bedroom, now Tang Caower's temporary guest room. One look showed a posture of long conversation. After Ma La sat on the chair at the computer desk where he usually sat, he discovered that the ordinarily chaotic room had become much tidier. Books and periodicals scattered everywhere on the desk, bookshelf, and even bedside had been neatly returned to the bookcase. Even thick dust on the computer screen had been wiped clean, as if washed with water. The windowsill that originally piled dirty clothes now conspicuously displayed a beer bottle. Inside was inserted a bunch of Chinese milk vetch picked from fields. Pink flower buds still bore crystalline dewdrops. The room was suffused with fresh, rich fragrance. This was obviously all Tang Caower's handiwork. Ma La's gaze fell on the computer desk. He couldn't help freezing. His unfinished book manuscript, that thick notebook, was placed right before him. At this moment, Tang Caower sat in a chair by the window. Her expression indicated she'd already read the manuscript. Ma La, who originally didn't know where to begin, suddenly felt much more relaxed. "So, you've read this book? No, can't yet be called a book. At most, it's only a manuscript." Ma La sipped tea while lighting a cigarette, squinting eyes, using a slow tone. "This is a book about my and my mother's older brothers, plus Shenhuangzhou folks' life history. Among them, Teacher Liu, your father, occupies a pivotal position in my life. In a certain sense, he shaped the first half of my life, furthermore influencing my entire life. What you've seen now is only our initial stage as teacher and student, from acquaintance to understanding to companionship." Throughout Ma La's entire narration, Tang Caower remained silent, listening, eyes wide open, long lashes occasionally fluttering. Like a kindergarten good child listening to a distant myth or legendary tale, as if she'd traveled all this way from Wuhan to this strange, small village precisely to hear Ma La tell her this story. Her expression appeared so quiet, pure, completely different from that neurotic appearance when Ma La first saw her at the rehabilitation center. When Ma La finally narrated the scene of Teacher Liu's death, Tang Caower was already streaming with tears. Tang Caower sobbed, asking, What disease did my father have?" Ma La didn't answer, but cleverly evaded. No matter what, he had to maintain Teacher Liu's image as a tragic hero, especially before Caower. Chapter 29. Caower should live a healthy life. No matter what, she couldn't be allowed to repeat Teacher Liu's mistakes. The next morning, Tang Caower left Shenhuangzhou. Ma La drove her all the way to Heku in his farm vehicle. Many people waited for buses at the crossroads. Small vendors occupied half the street. Passenger-carrying mamu weaved through the crowd like locusts. Before long, a dust-covered long-distance bus drove up. Ma La helped Tang Caower carry her travel bag toward the just-stopped bus. At the bus door, Ma La handed Tang Caower the travel bag. Caower took the luggage but didn't board immediately. Instead, she gazed steadily at Ma La, then suddenly hugged him. Ma La didn't react at first. When he did react, Tang Caower had already released him, walking toward the door. The instant she stepped onto the bus, Tang Caower turned her face, saying to him intimately and playfully, "Old Ma, I'll miss you." At that moment, from Tang Caower's gaze, Ma La not only saw trust, but also felt a dependence and attachment that existed only among relatives. For him, this was a strange emotion, like a man who'd never been a husband suddenly becoming a father. A warm current surged through his heart. "Cower! Don't forget to call me after you get back to Wuhan," Ma La shouted loudly toward the just departing bus. Ma La stood at the crossroads watching the bus disappear at the end of the road. Due to the rush, he'd overlooked an important detail. The bus Tang Cower boarded wasn't going to the provincial capital, Wuhan, but was a short-haul bus to Yanhe County. Several days later, Ma La received a call from Tang Lina asking if Tang Cower had come to find him. Ma La said, "Yes, Cower stayed with me a few days. She's already returned to Wuhan." Tang Lina said, "Neither the rehabilitation center nor home can find her. Her mobile phone is off too. Where exactly did she return to?" Ma La froze. Tang Lina's voice grew increasingly loud, as if calling him to account. "Old Ma, I'm still waiting to take Cower to reclaim that villa. She disappeared while at your place. You must find her for me." Tang Lina's shrill, piercing voice was too much for Ma La to bear. He had to turn off his phone. Where on earth had Cower gone? Ma La thought of Cower's former stepfather, Li Haijun. So, he called Li Haijun. The phone rang quite a while before being answered. "Tang Cower did come looking for me several days ago. I hadn't seen her for many years. Didn't expect she'd grown so beautiful. But she was a beauty from childhood, looking even more enchanting than Tang Lina. Has a wild streak about her. In that respect, takes after that dissolute Liu Yongjia." Ma La felt Li Haijun's words were somewhat off, not like someone who'd just married recently. He couldn't help interrupting. "Cower, where is she now?" "She ate one meal at my place, then left. Where exactly she went, I don't know either," Li Haijun said. "When leaving, she borrowed money from me. Afraid I wouldn't lend it, she said she'd just inherited property, an old villa, left by her biological father, Liu Yongjia. I'd wanted to call you to verify this matter, but the company's been too busy these days. Couldn't manage it. Ma La, is that inheritance Cower mentioned real?" Ma La's mind was a mess. Without a sound, he hung up. Ma La's heart felt heavy. Tang Cower's sudden disappearance made him feel culpable. From the moment Tang Cower arrived in Shenhuangzhou from Wuhan, this previously complete stranger's fate had become inseparably linked with his. Or earlier still, from the moment he told Cower everything about Teacher Liu, he'd assumed inescapable responsibility for Cower. That day in Heku, Cower's intimate embrace before boarding had made him feel a sense of kinship for this girl deep in his heart. But now Cower had actually disappeared from right under his nose. How could he answer Teacher Liu in the underworld? For several consecutive days, Ma La was dazed, as if he'd lost his soul, staying all day in the upstairs study. When Little Cripple called him down to eat, he seemed not to hear. After several days without watering, the bunch of originally fresh, charming Chinese milk vetch on the windowsill had gradually withered. This made his heart feel even worse. Just then, Ma La received a strange phone call. "Are you Ma La? We're from Yanhe County Public Security Bureau's anti-drug section. Your daughter, Tang Cower, has been detained according to the law for participating in group drug use. She's currently held at the county detention center." Ma La was stunned. Yanhe County Detention Center was located on a back street not far from the river. When Ma La saw Tang Cower at the county detention center, he almost didn't recognize her. Just a few days unseen, Tang Cower seemed transformed. Her face was pale as paper, eye circles black. A pair of originally lively, bright, large eyes was dull and lifeless. She'd thinned all around. Even her hair was much sparser than before. She didn't look like a girl not yet 20. Through the visiting room bars, Tang Cower nervously smiled at Ma La, saying, "Old Ma, I told them you're my dad. You won't be angry, will you?" She said it so lightly, even somewhat playfully, as if nothing had happened. Ma La said, "Saying that isn't wrong. Your father and I were as close as brothers. His daughter is also my daughter." Tang Cower lowered her eyelids. "At the station, I originally wanted to return to Wuhan, but I couldn't control my legs or my mouth. Somehow I ended up in Yanhe County. For Tang Tower, what happened these days was like a dream. During those days in Shenhuangzhou, drug cravings had begun stirring restlessly in her body. Multiple rehabilitation attempts not only failed to eliminate the addiction, but made her develop both physiological and psychological dependence on drugs, each time more intense than before. Each time cravings struck, it was like countless hands scratching inside her body, making her itch all over, unable to control herself. To suppress that frenzied impulse, she drank cold water continuously. When that didn't work, she desperately pulled her own hair. Handfuls of black hair were torn out. Only in severe pain could that restlessness inside her body slowly subside. But before long, those countless hands would start scratching inside her body again. Unable to endure the pain, Tang Tower opened her computer and joined a QQ group called African Cannibal Tribe. This was an addicts' online social group she'd met while singing at Red Moon Disco, members spread across various counties and cities province-wide. Tang Tower hadn't entered this QQ group for a long time, but being in the remote small village of Shenhuangzhou, she had no other options. Quickly, she found an online friend called Sister Feng in the group. This Sister Feng she'd long known online. She was a customer manager at Chufeng Grand Hotel nightclub in Yanhe County, regularly peddling drugs in the group, attracting all kinds of addicts. Not long after Tang Tower sent her message in the group, Sister Feng told her she had goods: white powder, heroin injections, ice, ecstasy, all varieties fully stocked. Moreover, African Cannibal Tribe online friends all got a 20% discount. Just like that, Tang Tower boarded the bus to Yanhe County in Heku. At that time, the money in her hand could only buy one ticket back to Wuhan. She thought of Li Haijun. Ever since her mother, Tang Lina, left Yanhe, she'd never seen this former stepfather's face again. But to borrow money, she could only steel herself to beg this person she'd once extremely detested. At this moment, facing the anxious-looking Mala, Tang Tower felt slightly uneasy. She'd deceived this person, yet just days ago this person had been a complete stranger to her. Now he'd been dragged into a group drug use case for no reason. He could completely ignore this. Yet he'd come without hesitation, as if the girl locked in detention really were his daughter. What a strange person. During those days in Shenhuangzhou, Tang Tower increasingly felt this person possessed a quality different from others, to the point where she unconsciously regarded Ma La as her own relative. Therefore, during interrogation, she'd filled in Ma La's name in the family contact column. "Sorry, old Ma, I shouldn't have implicated you," Tang Tower said somewhat apologetically. "You've already completed the task my father gave you. I have no more connection with you." "Cower, I said your father and I were close as brothers. His daughter is my daughter. Although he's gone, his unfulfilled obligations to you remain. I must complete them for him. Remember, your teacher Lu's only daughter. He loved you." Having said this, Ma La left the detention center. Now the urgent matter was finding someone to help, getting Tang Tower out of detention as quickly as possible. Staying in that place too long, even a healthy person would be tormented beyond recognition, let alone Cower in her current terrible physical state. The first person Ma La thought of who could help was Li Haijun. He finally found Li Haijun's company with great difficulty at the newly completed Pearl Tower in Yanhe County. Pearl Tower had 18 floors, currently Yanhe County's tallest building. All the companies with offices here were Yanhe's well-known enterprises. Li Haijun's company's new office was on the 18th floor, decorated in an extremely luxurious, grand manner. The company's scale and class were completely worlds apart from when Ma La had seen him at the department store several years ago. Li Haijun obviously knew the purpose of Ma La's visit. After instructing his female secretary to bring him tea, he closed the office door. Ma La couldn't even drink tea. He immediately told Li Haijun about Tang Tower's situation. "Teacher Li, we must get Cower out of detention quickly. Right now, only you can help with this." Li Haijun listened for quite a while without speaking. "Tower was once my stepdaughter. By logic, helping with this is my duty," he said slowly. "But group drug use isn't a small matter. If the circumstances are serious, it warrants a sentence. I'm a businessman. How dare I touch anything illegal? Seeing his reluctance, Ma La could only pester persistently. Teacher Li, in Yanhe, you're at minimum a respectable figure. Finding people to smooth things over shouldn't be difficult, right? Ma La, you don't understand official circles' depths. Think things too simply. For cases like this, ordinary people simply have no say, Li Haijun said. Oh, right. Aren't you old classmates with Ding Yupeng? He's now a county magistrate, should be called mayor. Our county's about to change from a county to a city. Helping with this for him is just a piece of cake. Right. I only thought of Li Haijun as Chaoer's stepfather. Forgot about Ding Yupeng. Truly worshipped the wrong deity. Ma La slapped his forehead, stood up from the sofa, and immediately went to find Ding Yupeng. But Li Haijun checked his watch, saying, It's already noon. Current leaders are busiest at noon, busy rushing to banquets. Better not go now to ask them for help. You should eat lunch at my place first, then go. Ma La thought this made sense, so sat back down. Li Haijun called in his female secretary, had her reserve a private room at Food City downstairs, then left the office with Ma La. That young female secretary, though wearing a professional suit, emanated a charm difficult to conceal. When entering, she and Li Haijun exchanged glances. Ma La felt their relationship was unusual. Food City was on the 8th floor, an entire floor of various style restaurants. Li Haijun led Ma La into a Hunan-flavored restaurant called Xiaoxiang Rain. The proprietress was a gaudily dressed middle-aged woman. Seeing Li Haijun, she immediately came forward and greeted him warmly. Boss Li, you haven't come for several days. Li Haijun laughed it off. Well, I'm here now, aren't I? So saying, he pinched the proprietress's plump arm. Li Haijun was obviously a regular here. He didn't even bother looking at the menu the proprietress tossed over, just waved his hand. Bring a few of your specialty dishes. Before long, dishes arrived, all authentic Hunan cuisine. Every dish contained red and green peppers. Yanhe County borders Hunan. People here all love eating peppers. Seeing one dish was the famous Yanhe specialty, inkstone fish belly. Ma La knew it wasn't cheap. Ordinary banquets rarely dared to order it. He said, somewhat embarrassed, Teacher Li, don't spend so much. What spending? Just a simple meal, Li Haijun said lightly. Ordinarily, when entertaining clients and leaders from relevant departments, one meal costs several thousand. Just these few years, Teacher Li's business has grown so large, Ma La said not without flattery. Back when he and Teacher Liu ran their company together during the most prosperous days, hadn't it been like this too? Thinking this, he couldn't help feeling somewhat emotional. At this point, Li Haijun asked what liquor he'd drink, baijiu or beer. Ma La picked up the teacup before him, saying, I won't drink alcohol, tea is fine. His heart was preoccupied with Chaoer's matter, truly had no mood to drink. Li Haijun had the server bring a small bottle of gin. Without the server acting, he skillfully opened the bottle cap, pouring himself a full glass. The two ate while chatting. Mainly, Li Haijun talked and Ma La listened. After several glasses, Li Haijun's conversational interest seemed even stronger. You know gin enhances virility? Li Haijun held his wine glass, saying somewhat mysteriously, I now drink one small bottle like this before every meal. Without relying on it, Man Yue would have divorced me long ago. Ma La hadn't expected Li Haijun to tell him such things. Like inadvertently glimpsing others' privacy, he felt uncomfortable and could only bury his head in his food. Seeing him silent, Li Haijun realized something, stopping his words. After all, they'd once had a teacher-student relationship. After 2 years' effort, over half of Yanhe County's insect-resistant cotton market had become Li Haijun's domain. As American Duke Company's China regional agent, he now not only controlled the entire supply of insect-resistant cottonseed in Yanhe County, but had also signed with Chufeng Group for distribution rights to insect-resistant cotton fertilizer, herbicides, and glyphosate pesticides. Good shade under a big tree. Current Li Haijun's worth had multiplied, becoming a Yanhe County enterprise star attracting attention. Today, when Ma La visited, he personally hosted a banquet, first because of former teacher-student relations, second because Ma La, in his eyes, was a rare talent. He'd always planned to recruit him, have him work for himself. Just as Li Haijun was pondering how to turn the conversation to the main topic, Ma La suddenly asked, "Teacher Li, did you see recent online news?" "I rarely go online. What news?" "India in recent years has had many cotton farmers commit suicide annually." "Why did they commit suicide?" Li Haijun casually asked. He was somewhat puzzled as to why Ma La suddenly raised such an unrelated topic. "Most Indian cotton farmers plant insect-resistant cotton," Ma La said. "In recent years, insect-resistant cotton seed prices and fertilizer demand have climbed steadily. Plus, cotton prices in the Indian market dropped sharply. Many cotton farmers working hard a whole year not only earned no money but also owed large loans." "I'm worried." Li Haijun couldn't help frowning. "What are you worried about?" "I'm worried. One day our China will also see this situation. After all, insect-resistant cotton seeds, along with related pesticides and fertilizers, are controlled by foreigners. Once economic and ecological crises occur, consequences would be unthinkable." But before Ma La finished, Li Haijun rudely interrupted. "Ma La, I think you need to change your thinking. Foreign, Chinese, what's the difference? Now it's all globalization. Development first, efficiency first. Why distinguish so clearly? The country now imports many high-tech products from abroad, let alone grain seeds. Haven't you seen the Beijing Olympics advertising slogan? One world, one dream. Isn't the meaning clear? We're all one family." Li Haijun spoke eloquently with an authoritative agricultural expert's tone. "Insect-resistant crops are the world trend. How can China be an exception? Your ecological rice, on the other hand, is somewhat untimely. Widespread use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides marks modern agricultural technology. Your approach obviously doesn't conform to modern agriculture's development trend." Ma La momentarily found nothing to say and could only fall silent. Li Haijun also realized that he and Ma La were like vehicles on two different tracks, fundamentally unable to talk to each other. He had to abandon his original plan. After a moment, he suddenly asked, "Ma La, are you still alone now?" Ma La grunted acknowledgement. "Already over 40, still haven't formed a family. Do you really plan to stay single your whole life?" Li Haijun used a teacher's caring tone. "In my view, you've been bewitched by Liu Yongjia. Previously running a company with him, didn't earn much money but wrongly sat in prison several years." "Fine. That's past, won't mention it. Just talk about right now. Kaoer is Liu Yongjia's daughter. When he was alive, he never even looked at her once. Dead, he has you wipe his ass. Aren't you being a sucker? Moreover, Kaoer, I watched grow up. Like her mother, naturally a reckless type. Even if you were God and an angel, you couldn't save her. I advise you withdraw early. Stop managing that rotten mess." Perhaps due to alcohol's effect, Li Haijun grew increasingly agitated as he spoke, saliva spattering Ma La's face. After pausing a moment, he suddenly lowered his voice, asking, "I've long heard Liu Yongjia died of AIDS. I didn't quite believe it. You were always by his side, and you should have had the most authority to speak. Tell me the truth today. Is this true or not?" Still in room 808 from last time, still that refined Secretary Liu. Fortunately, this time he didn't run into Ding Yupeng in a meeting. Secretary Liu invited Ma La to sit in the lounge, poured him water, saying, "Please wait a moment. County Magistrate Ding is currently discussing work with Vice County Magistrate Wang and County Government Office Director Li. He'll come right away." While drinking water, Ma La casually picked up a book on the sofa and flipped through it. This was a currently hot-selling novel on the market, telling stories of scheming, cunning official circles. Reportedly treated as an official circles manual, very popular among cadres, almost everyone had a copy. It looked like Ding Yupeng also used this kind of novel for leisure reading. Ma La recalled when, years ago, they'd both heatedly discussed the novel Rising Star. He thought, how different current officials are from cadres back then. Just as Ma La was thinking this, Ding Yupeng entered. "Old classmate, you only visit when you need something. Coming to find me, you definitely have business." Ding Yuping very casually shook hands with him, plopping down on the sofa, looking very tired as he rubbed his temples with his fingers. Again, that phrase, "Speak, what do you need me to help with?" Seeing Ding Yuping's weary appearance, Ma La concisely explained Tang Chaoer's situation once through. After hearing, Ding Yuping didn't immediately take a position, but cupped his chin in his right hand, pondering. Ma La knew this was his characteristic way of thinking. Looked like this matter wasn't quite the piece of cake Li Haijun mentioned for him either. Heart feeling uncertain, Ding Yuping's hand cupping his chin relaxed. By regulations, this matter falls under the Politics and Law Committee Secretary's responsibility. I shouldn't casually intervene, but Tang Chaoer is Teacher Liu's daughter. I can only break precedent once. I'll immediately call the Public Security Bureau chief. Hearing this, Ma La couldn't help sighing with relief. After Ding Yuping called the Public Security Bureau chief from another room, returning to the lounge, he said to Ma La, "Matters resolved. Go directly to the detention center to pick her up. I have no time to accompany you. The National Sociology Annual Conference High-Level Forum will be held in Yanhe. To prepare for this conference, these days I've been busy in utter chaos." Ma La said, "You do your work. I'll go get her now." So saying, he stood from the sofa, walking outside. Almost at the door, Ding Yuping suddenly called him back. "Ma La, wait." Ma La stopped, asking Ding Yuping, "Something?" "Yes, and big business." Ding Yuping came over, pulled him back to the lounge, and sat on the sofa. "This is called better to come at the right time than early. You're it." Ma La looked at Ding Yuping, baffled, not knowing what he meant. "It's like this." Ding Yuping introduced the National Sociology Annual Conference High-Level Forum situation to Ma La. Attending this high-level forum are all national academic authorities researching agriculture, farmer, countryside issues. The forum theme is New Rural Construction and New Type Farmers Professional Cooperatives Development Trends. As a forum organizer, the county party committee and government want to invite 2 new type farmers professional cooperative directors to speak at the forum, both of whom will introduce practical experience to experts and take this opportunity to publicize our Yanhe new rural construction achievements. I was just worrying about not finding suitable candidates. Now you've come to my door yourself. How can I let you go?" Ma La was completely unprepared, declining. "This, I'm afraid I can't." "Not long ago, at the County Rural Work Conference, I thoroughly promoted your Tongshin ecological rice," Ding Yuping said half seriously, half jokingly. "I'm not asking you to pay advertising fees. You should at least support my work. Otherwise, wouldn't that be too disloyal?" Ma La still wanted to refuse. Ding Yuping added, "Professor Murong Chu will also attend the conference. She's my graduate advisor. Yanhe is spending money to hold this conference. I'm also considering the teacher's face. Moreover, she previously served a sentence of youth detention in your Shenhuangzhou. No matter from which angle, you should support this." Ma La felt Ding Yuping had backed him into a corner with no way out. After Tang Chaoer came out of detention, she fell ill, high fever, dizzy and confused, no strength even to walk. Ma La could only hire a taxi to take her back to Shenhuangzhou. That evening, Ma La had Little Cripple invite the village doctor, Wu Daokun, to give Chaoer 4 drips. After 3 consecutive days, the high fever gradually receded. That day, after Wu Daokun finished taking Chaoer's pulse, he mysteriously pulled Ma La aside, quietly asking, "This girl's not just a common cold. Tell me the truth. Has she gotten into that stuff?" So saying, he made a strange gesture. Ma La understood Wu Daokun's meaning, hesitating whether to tell him the truth. Nowadays, young city people all like that stuff. Several young men and girls from our village working in the south also got addicted. Last year, during the new year, some even found my clinic. If I hadn't prescribed for them, they probably couldn't have saved their lives. This former barefoot doctor, with an air of well-informedness, always spoke volubly. Drug users' pulses differ from ordinary people, fast, then slow, irregular. My second uncle was like this. He started smoking opium in his teens. not only smoked away family property but ultimately staked his life. Hearing this, Ma La's heart tightened. He could only tell Wu Daokun the real situation. "Must quit quickly. Dragging it out takes root. Once rooted, can't quit." Wu Daokun's hand chopped through the air. "Just like my second uncle, but this girl's so young, if ruined by that stuff, too wasteful." Wu Daokun's words struck right at Ma La's heart. He explained Tang Tower's repeated entries and exits from the rehabilitation center. Wu Daokun, hearing this, shook his head. "What use are rehabilitation center methods? Today, say it's quit, in a few days relapses, even worse. To completely uproot drug addiction, must still use our folk remedies. Half a month as one treatment course, must continuously take 4 courses. What folk remedy?" "My grandfather said this folk remedy he learned from a Taoist when gathering herbs at Wudang Mountain, specifically for quitting that addiction. Just taking the medicine requires some suffering. Ordinary people can't endure it." Ma La asked somewhat doubtfully, "Since it's a secret formula your grandfather passed down, why didn't your second uncle quit?" "This formula's medicine primer contains snake gallbladder, centipedes, cockroaches, human feces. Just hearing it's disgusting. First-time users all vomit and have diarrhea," Wu Daokun said. "My grandfather said this is called fighting poison with poison. But my second uncle couldn't endure this suffering. Not only couldn't he persist in taking 4 courses, each time he'd take medicine before family members, then turn around and spit it out. His self-deceiving result was watching himself lose his life. Can't blame anyone, only blame himself." Ma La half believed Wu Daokun's words, but after hesitating a while, he still made up his mind, asking Wu Daokun to try that folk remedy on Kaur. Ma La thought that Kaur should live a healthy life. No matter what, she couldn't be allowed to repeat Teacher Lu's mistakes.